Hello, everyone. I do believe that I am live, and I managed to go live before any of you idiots were able to spam late in the chat, when I was like 1 or 2 minutes late at absolute most the last few streams. Thank you very much, Nigel, for the very interesting words that I have definitely read. Also, I apologize. There might be a couple more mutes for loud belches this stream. Here comes one right now. I'm not muted. Shut up. I can literally see my microphone levels go on. Hello, Maniacal Foreigner. Hello, Super Duper. Hello, Decato. Did I already say Murray? Literally already forgotten. Oh, I just realized I'm on this tab as opposed to this tab. My apologies. One day I will be able to stream. One day I'll be able to stream. I also realized I didn't ping anybody. Whoopsie daisy. So when are you proposing? I'm not proposing to a woman over the internet. That is very cringe, okay? That is extremely cringe. Hello, Jackie. Hello, Eureka. Hello, perfectly sane Lutheran. I am not Stampy, okay? Shut up. I am not. I wish I was as successful as Stampy, alright? But on the other hand, I sincerely hope that Thrang does not turn out to be my Alpha Lee, okay? Let's try and avoid that particular timeline. Although, honestly, didn't Alpha Lee, like, get called out for going on some kind of drunken, raging rampage over a girl? And honestly, with all the stuff that Thrang has to deal with regards to Pippa, I would totally understand if he went on, like, a drunken binge, and that was the way his online career ended, is that he just boots up a live stream and spends, like, an hour raging at all the things that Pink Rabbit Bad has done to him, and how he's finally cracked under the stress. Your crush on her is pretty cringe. Look, I just respect quality, alright? I see quality, and I appreciate it. Do you know how hard it is to find a woman like Kirsha in the world nowadays? I have been looking for 30 years in a community of fairly traditional Christians who all believe in various different virtues, and I still haven't found a woman as dutiful as somebody like Kirsha. Okay? If you see someone like Kirsha, like there is a bunch of very wifeable women in the VTuber sphere. Like there's Irie and there's Amiya, and if she stopped drinking her own piss, there'd probably be Mozu. But I mean, Kirsha stands head and shoulders above the rest. Okay, it's not that she hasn't tried. It's that she hasn't found anything because she has, unfortunately, an incredibly powerful gaydar. So, anyway, we've already brought up Kirsha in the first 30 seconds. No, it's more than that. It's like 5 minutes. No, it's 3 minutes now. 3:37. Okay. So, as you may have told with the title, I'm going to cover this rather interesting thing. I was going to cover something else this evening, but this new FTC ruling has really changed my perspective on stuff. I'm probably going to be one of the first people to actually talk about this. I do apologize for the upcoming flashbang later on, but yeah, unfortunately, an awful lot of these government websites have no ability to be... Oops, sorry. No ability to have dark mode on any of them. But this is something that an awful lot of people have been complaining about for many years in the streaming community, and I think this will be a major step forward for all of them. Kirsha worship. Denna, shall I put some of your Nexus tweets up on stream? Because I think that you really shouldn't throw I really think you shouldn't throw those stones from inside that glass house of yours, okay? When it comes to talking about creators worshipping other creators, alright? Okay, Denna? Shall we just agree to a ceasefire in that? I still wonder why Thrang wants Pippa. I think that Thrang is just has a massive savior complex. Oh, so you're a creator now? I mean, apparently my average CCV is higher or at least equal to that of that fat-ass Crimbo, who... How many I can't even see it because he has me blocked. How many Twitter followers does Crimbo have? He has, like, a vastly greater, longer number than me. Wonder if Kayla makes good wife material. I mean, she would make good gamer wife material. I don't think you're ever going to have children with somebody like Kayla, and I think that possibility of having children is basically the be-all and end-all. Well, at the very least, if you have a wife, if you have a woman who says, "Look, I'll live with you, I'll be your wife, but I'm not going to have children with you," you know, if a 10 out of 10 woman were to say that to me, and a 5 out of 10 woman were to say, "Yeah, I'll be your wife and I'll have your children," I'm going with the 5 out of 10 woman every single time. It doesn't matter how much the 10 out of 10 shares my interests or anything like that. I'm sorry. When you hit your 30s, you realize that preservation of the family line trumps an awful lot more other characteristics. Our little autist doesn't narrow it down much. Yeah, we're all autistic here, okay? So yeah, Kayla would make a great gaming buddy. I would definitely be, if Kayla was into like guilds and so on, I would definitely invite her, and I would invite Botan. So that's a concubine, not a wife. I mean, you can still have children with concubines. I am definitely not homosexual, trust me. There are many things in life that arouse me, but other men are not one of them, all right? I'm not going to I'm going to be the exception, all right? Oh dear, I'm a little bit sleepy tonight because I had a very nice steak earlier. A very, very nice steak earlier. I had it with roast onions and fried mushrooms, and I had it with some mustard as well, some nice British mustard, which is vastly superior to the disgusting excuse for mustard the French call mustard. And I've also been snacking on Marmite Crunch all day, which is chemically addictive to a terrifying degree. I am not a femboy. I am just secure enough in my masculinity that I do not mind wearing flamboyant outfits, all right? There is a difference. There is a difference. You have to learn the difference. This is making me hungry. Well, yeah. I mean, this is the advantage of living in a household with several very good cooks. Imagining Proctor as a father is more than a bit concerning. I would make a good father, okay? I didn't think that I used to. I used to not think that I would make a good father, but now, at the absolute very least, I have a much greater understanding of how the world works, okay? I understand exactly the kind of horrible Machiavellian, you know, Skinner box torture regime that is being inflicted upon young people in the modern era, and I do not intend to put my children through any of that. My children will be home educated in a small community of moral and hopefully religious people who share my values, and I am not allowing them on the internet, and I am not allowing them to go to school. If they ever attend education that is not in my own home, I am going to know absolutely everything about that educational facility, down to the names and individual past histories of every single teacher at that place. And you better be ready to receive more than angry letters if you let my child down, okay? The bar for good fatherhood is very low, to be honest. I absolutely agree, and it depresses me how many people are terrible at parenting. And I think one of my major advantages is that I still seem to be decently able to connect with young people as well. There seems to be this kind of phase transition state where adults go through this point where they're just completely incapable of understanding how a child thinks. And people will become like child psychologists and read up all sorts of books to understand how children think, as if they weren't children themselves not all that long ago. Like, they spent a minimum of 18 years of their life being children in one stage or another. So why all of that knowledge and experience just pops out of their head at some point in their like late 30s to early 40s, I do not understand at all. Mighty Linus Rex, I want children in theory, but holy shit, the modern world is so horrendous, they can't even look forward to good movies or video games. It will all be shit unless I preserve my consoles. I mean, I understand that too, but at the same time, I have the advantage of living in a household with a ton of books and other things. And I think that people underestimate that it's not really all that much effort to protect children. You have to, what you need to know is to watch out for the dangers. And one of the things that I find really, really distressing to me is this idea, what shocks me, what really, really shocks me. I was listening to a program on, I think it was radio. Yeah, it was radio. It wasn't recent, but it's stuck in my head ever since, where there was a street of families somewhere in England, and most of these families had children, and it was known that there was some kind of abusive family in that street. I don't think it was sexually abusive, but it was like physically abusive, and the parents would let their children drink alcohol and things like that. And it was an interview with one of the families in that street, and the woman was saying that I made it my concern to make sure I wrote down a list of every single family in the neighborhood that my children might come in contact with, and I rated them like green, yellow, red. And so the red people were ones that my children were not supposed to interact with whatsoever. The yellows were the ones who I would let my children interact with with me in proximity, as in they could play, they could go on, they could stay over or so on, but I would always have to be there chaperoning them. It was the green people, which were by far the smallest category, that I trusted to actually look after my children while I was doing other things. And she said that for years, I was treated as a complete and total pariah by this entire street for daring to do that, for daring to discriminate against the problematic families in the neighborhood who let their children do things that I did not want my children exposed to. Everybody was like, "Oh, you can't judge them. They're from a poor background. It's not your responsibility. This is racial and social profiling." I don't think she explicitly said they were a different race, but I think it could be reasonably implied. And I just thought to myself, that is the most basic common sense level of precaution that I would expect every family to partake in. If I ever have children, I am definitely going to teach them things like safe words at the earliest possible opportunity. Because another thing that I listened to much more recently was a case where a single mother and her daughter were nearly killed in a fire that took place in, I think the daughter was about 5 or 6 years old, and her mother had fallen asleep on the couch, and the daughter had gone outside, and she could see the next door, because these were semi-detached houses, the next door had a fire on in the top window. And so she ran back inside and she tried to wake up her mother. And for a long time, her mother didn't actually believe her when she said there was a fire going on in the opposite, in the semi-detached building right next to them. But in the end, the daughter was able to convince her that there was a fire going on, and they left the house. And it was only then the mother realized that there was actually a fire. And bystanders reported they got out right as the fire was about to jump to the lower stories of their house. So that daughter saved her mother's life. And in cases like this, I just thought to myself, are you telling me you never sat your child down and said, this is the word or phrase that you are to say to me when something is really serious and you're not playing around? Because that just strikes me again as absolute and total common sense. That you should have communication lines with your children to make absolutely certain that when they are trying to send you a message and going like, Daddy, I'm really not playing around, this is not make-believe or anything, I am completely serious, so I'm saying this to you right now. You need to have those kind of lines of communication open. Otherwise, you are not going to realize when your child is playing around or when they are being really serious. Monarchical foreigner, the biggest difficulty is finding the right balance. You want to protect your children from danger, but you don't want to coddle or oppress them. Pardon me. Magdalena's writes again, so much of American history is a lie that I might as well write my own history books to teach children. Yeah, I think... Sorry. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Oh my, I am very, very bilious tonight. Probably because I've had a bit too much fiber. Oh well. It just very much distresses me how little common sense there is left in the world. People have been taught how to be sheep. They have been taught how to be unquestioning sheep. And they've been taught so many things, like, for example, with that woman who was talking about how she graded and people along her street. That would be considered racial profiling in England nowadays. And they would probably get arrested for admitting that. That would be extreme. That would be an implication or an outright admission of, racism and hate speech. And the English government would just go, yeah, you're getting either a fine or a prison sentence, and oh yeah, we're sending CPS after your children. Which, I'm sorry, you have got to put your family before everything else. Damn what the government says. No government is going to have a direct input to the greatest extent possible that I can manage in my children's life. My children are my concern. Common sense is not common at all. I completely agree. And I'm not saying that I have the perfect formula where I will definitely be the perfect father with the perfect mother. But at the very least, I can think of ways around so many of the issues that I see in modern families. I do not intend to be the kind of parent who ends up on a TV show saying, oh yeah, my son was done for vehicular homicide after a 6-month spree of jacking cars that I never knew about because he'd gotten in with a local gang and he'd got tatted up and he'd started carrying a gun around. But oh, I just thought he was a really nice boy. Like, I loved him and I trusted him and we talked about everything. And I'm just like, bitch, you are completely lying out of your ass right now. You did not have a slightest clue what your child was doing or getting up to. Do not sit there and pretend to me that this was a mystery to you. Either it wasn't a mystery to you and you allowed it anyway, or you are the densest, dumbest, and most stupid mother or father in the history of stupid parenting. So that's my diatribe regarding parenting right now, and I hope that people generally tend to agree with me because the young scholars. I am so sick of that. It's the tyranny of low expectations. I will have high expectations of my children, but at the same time, I will have high expectations because hopefully I will choose a mother for my children that is at least as intelligent as myself. So my children will be of above average intelligence as well. But I would say even being at 100 IQ in this day and age, with the right background and the right upbringing, you may as well be 150 IQ compared to the people that are lower down on the mental totem pole. It really is the bell curve in action. The bell curve being a very infamous book about intelligence curvatures and how the poor are basically self-selecting themselves to be stupid, while the intellectuals are self-selecting to be intelligent. Which is very definitely an evil, disgusting, horrible, racist book that you absolutely should not read from cover to cover and walk away feeling petrified to your very skin about. You definitely should not Google it on or look it up on Yandex as a PDF, because it's definitely not there. And that would be wrong anyway. It's just their culture. It's like the whole Kenji situation where people are giving him so much leeway just because he is a creator of color. I forget who said it, but the most relevant phrase now is, the majority will be tyrannized by the lowest common denominator. That's definitely a quote that I can empathize with. Magdalena's Wretch, I'm very sorry. Petrified, you mean vindicated? I don't like to be vindicated on things that are of a negative social connotation. I would absolutely love to be well, I wouldn't love to be, but I would be more happy if I was just being a massive pessimist who was constantly being proven wrong. I wish I was proven wrong far more often. My latest strikes again. America stood for rugged yeomen and entrepreneurs not afraid to be a distinguished individual and able to discriminate between good and bad. This ideal has been under attack since the progressive era. It absolutely has. Touch Fluffy Tail, nice to see you here. You don't need to be smart, you just need to take to care to be a good parent. We got in this mess because boomers were completely detached from their children's lives. Yes. And even now, there are people that I know, there are families that I know, who have bought into the whole, you have to be the closest friend your children could ever ask for. And it's clear that they're fortunate in that their children are still generally good people. I'd rather be wrong and happy than proven right. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. That is one of the best and the best works of satire in human history. Like, I consider Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy to be in the top 100 books of all human history in terms of how brilliantly it satirized the modern condition. And it just keeps getting proven true over and over and over and over again. It's genuinely terrifying how much of a sociological work of analysis the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy series actually is. The Rugged Yeoman did too good of a job. Yeah, I think it's more like the Rugged Yeoman were a bit too optimistic about how ineffective it would be for successive generations to just piss away their legacy with great enthusiasm. Excuse me, I'm going to hit the bottle tonight. Ah, that is so nice. Oh, chair adjustments, go. But I'm going to get in. I'm not going to ramble for too long because I want to get into the quite hefty amounts of material that I want to cover tonight. First of all, I want to highlight this rather entertaining thing. I've been talking about Warhammer a little bit in the past couple of streams, and I thought that it would be fun to just follow the evolving events of this, which is specifically, as Grums posted, the CFO has dumped nearly all of her shares and is leaving because she is very much aware that the fans are upset. And I looked up the full article of this. It's not too long. The outgoing CFO of Nottingham-based Games Workshop has sold shares in the company worth more than £700,000. Rachel Tung has reduced her stake in the Nottingham-based company by 2/3 after the share sale at an average price of £94.893 per share. In January, Tung announced her resignation, although she is expected to stay with the company until next January. Games Workshop shares were valued around £60 at the start of 2020, but enjoyed a big surge through the pandemic and, despite falling back in 2022, have since rebounded close to pandemic heights. The company, which was founded in 1975 and is best known for Warhammer and Warhammer 40k, now has a market value of more than £3 billion. Oh my goodness, one more belch. Games Workshop initially produced wooden boards for various games and later evolved into an importer of Dungeons & Dragons and expanded into publishing its own wargames and role-playing games. By the early 1990s, it expanded to Europe, the US, Canada, and Australia, and its headquarters relocated to Lenton, Nottingham in 1997. It's pretty simple. But I think that now would be a good time to short Games Workshop. Not financial advice or anything, but yeah, putting some short calls on Games Workshop stock might be a good idea, because I have a very strong feeling that Warhammer's share price and everything is going to go down quite dramatically over the next few months, because of if the progressive woke scolds can get somebody into such high a position at the company that they could just unilaterally say, yeah, the custodians were always female, deal with it. That is a deep, deep, disturbing level of infiltration that is not going to go away anytime soon. It really isn't. Danny D, a friend's boomer grandfather has pissed away a family value of 1.5 million USD on hobbies like buying a yacht. Touch my tail, can't blame her. Dealing with these people must take a toll on you. Arclight sounds like a meme stock. To retell the tale that I told a couple of streams ago, just briefly. My friend Alex, my economist friend, who teaches me an awful lot about how morbidly horrible the world is right now, he mentioned the whole Niji Sanji thing to one of his investor friends around the time of the Selen document drop from Niji Sanji, because I like to talk to him about all this stuff as well on the side, because I find his perspective to be very refreshing. And he mentioned it to one of his investor friends, and his investor friend said to him, I quote pretty much verbatim, "You never talk about specific companies. There sounds like there's money to be made here." And he went out and bought 150,000 on short calls on Niji Sanji, right as they dropped their Selen document, and right as their stock price just collapsed. And I think he probably made back about $1 million from that. So yeah, and as Alex said, my knowledge definitely allows me a measure, would definitely be considered valid market research nowadays. So yeah, if you want any financial advice, put some shorts out on Games Workshop. That's my call. That's my call on that. When you put it like that, Proctor, my mind immediately pops to those people who say there is no political solution. Well, I'm technically one of those people, because I firmly believe the only political solution we're going to get is when God decides he's had enough of this place and burns it all down. But yeah, that's a stream for another day, when I get particularly drunk and just absolutely stop caring in any way at all. Now then, what am I going to move on to? Because of course my stuff is completely messed up. Yes, this is something that I thought, I'm going to bring up my beloved Foxwife once again with this.
In the 56.
Because this is a brief video that I want to play for people. I'll just go to the original first, because it says, Colin Rugg, the female University of Chicago student fights off... Will you please just stop auto... Is there a way to stop Twitch... Demanded her... Is there a way to stop Twitch video or Twitter videos from auto-playing every time you do anything at all to the video thing? It's really irritating. I only want these things to start when I click on them, and then it's like... I don't understand why all of these social media platforms work like this. It's so irritating. So yes, new female University of Chicago student fights off a robber by grabbing his gun as he tried stealing her phone. 21-year-old Madeleine fended off the thug by grabbing his gun and removing the magazine before he hopped into a getaway car with her phone. The thug looked dumbfounded as he looked for his magazine, but Madeleine had thrown it into a bush. Shortly before the incident, 4 suspects robbed 2 other students and demanded their belongings at gunpoint. I'm able to get my hands on the gun and remove the magazine from the gun, and I toss it into the bush, Madeleine recalled. Yeah, I agree, badass. This woman would most definitely make a good wife. I'm calling it now. The only thing that would have made her a better wife is if she had then shot her attacker, because I would 100% have supported her if she just mag-dumped into this guy with his own gun. And that would be the most hilarious climax to this whole thing. I think going to the settings doxes your email and phone number if you open them on certain places, or just let it later off screen. Thank you. Yeah, shorting GW is probably a good idea. I'm still regretting the fact that I wasn't able to open a short position on any color when I saw the Selen document. I agree. I find it most frustrating. I would 100% I would 100% open a trading account if I was not literally unable to do so because of circumstances basically beyond my control. Because right now, it seems like I genuinely have a pretty good ability to call things when I see them. I mean, it's like my friend Alex said, that people who do 20 trades generally come out better than people who do 200 trades. It's about seeing the opportunity and going for it rather than trying to like throw money at absolutely everything and hoping to come out on top. Because like with stock trading, it has literally been proven that a monkey with a calculator can make as much money as a professional stock trader in the long run. It's completely random. Completely random trades on the stock market have no measurable difference in long-term profit margins than a professional stock trading investor, because it's just so unpredictable and it evens out overall. Whereas if the smart investors invest in things they know, or at least are reasonably certain will make them a good return, and then they cash out. They don't stay in for like really, really long periods of time. Let me just adjust my chat a tiny bit. There we go. Didn't realize it was slightly clipping off the stream. They would have branded her racist for killing a minority. Don't. But anyway, the thing that I wanted to highlight was what Kirsche responded to. And I'm
Free
just
in the
gonna...
50s.
I'm just gonna play the video now. And then shut up and have a drink of water while it's running. Have I got my desktop audio on? Yes, I do.
600 block of South University. Maddie says a confrontation happened and the suspect demanded her phone before flashing the gun. The pair got into a tussle.
I was grabbing for maybe my phone, maybe the gun. It's really like a blackout moment for me. And I realized that I was able to grab the magazine out of the...
This girl looks... Look at that. That is a hardened girl. Look at her. I mean, I guess she was just off, probably I mean, she's wearing something like a school jersey or something here. So I'm guessing she's on some kind of team. Look at that face. That is a heavy set face for a woman. That is a woman with an awful lot, I would say, of muscle potential there.
I realized that I was able to grab the magazine out of the gun.
Yeah, I mean, that's not a fat woman. That is a built woman. That is a woman who works out. That guy picked a wrong person to mess with.
The loaded magazine, now in police custody, Maddie says, and she hopes it will help solve the crime. Just minutes after that ordeal sent people in the area scrambling to safety. Another armed robbery involving 2 suspects with handguns reported in the 1300 block of East 56th Street. That crime under investigation by the Chicago Police Department.
I want to feel safer on this campus. That's the bottom line.
I think we can always ask for more from our campus and our city.
Maddie says she hopes fellow students and staff are vigilant and keep their guard up. When all said and done, she says her reaction was a knee-jerk one, and she's thankful to be okay.
I couldn't necessarily really register the threat ahead of me, so definitely wouldn't advocate for fighting back. Losing a life over a phone is definitely not worth it.
Now, on to Kirsche's commentary about this. It's sad that people sit idly by and watch these things happen now, and it's by design. We used to make fun of China while watching videos of crowds standing around during an assault, murder, getting hit by a car, etc., thinking that could never happen here, that's crazy. If you are disincentivized from helping your fellow countrymen, if you cannot trust your fellow countrymen on average, you don't have countrymen. A class of people is being created, those who are isolated, easy to control, and willing to ignore the increase in boiling temperatures. And I quite agree, because let's go back at just this guy. You can see the guy right here. He has been here this entire confrontation, and he has not even reacted. Proctor, I missed the first 20 minutes of stream when I just caught up on 3x speed. F you, if I have a savior complex, then so do you. More settings and privacy, accessibility, display, and language accessibility set to never do it off screen. Thank you for that. I will definitely do that after stream. It's not too much of an issue. I've got no more Twitter videos or anything for this particular stream. Proctor, zoom in on the mag. Why do you... What gun, I wonder? You know, I know about guns because my best friend Alex is a massive gun nut. Let me see if I can find it. Here it is. That's as close as I can get. That looks like a 9mm to me, of some sort. That's about as much as I know about guns. It's obviously got a transparent magazine, which, as far as I know, kind of rules out most older models of gun, which use metal magazines. But apart from like saying that it's a 9mm or something or other, I have no real opinions there. I'll let people stare at it for like another 15 seconds or so. Ah, lovely, lovely water. Okay. Has anyone made? No, yeah, Glock. I kind of thought it was a Glock too, because, and I thought it was a Glock simply because I think that like Glocks are the ones that have like polymer or plastic shells. So that was just my assumption. Glock 17 most likely. Okay, all right. Well, it seems like my firearms knowledge isn't too bad because I kind of thought it was a Glock too. Yes, that's a magazine. The mag drop button is easy to reach. I mean, it's easy to reach on most firearms as far as I'm aware. Like, even I, though I've never held a real gun, I know that most guns just have a very simple, like, mag release button somewhere near the trigger. I think that most of them you can even, like, hit it with your thumb if you try. I've seen that done on a few models at least. Pretty sure the M1911, you can literally just hit the mag release with your thumb. Do you like Fox for her fluff or for her green card? Yes. Next question. Unless the idiot mugger didn't even have the magazine inserted all the way. It's not impossible given how stupid most of these people are. How did you even meet Alex? We met when I think Alex was around 9 or 10 and I was 12. We were playing Neverwinter Nights together. We just met on Neverwinter Nights multiplayer. We used to play zombie survival servers together. About in the mid-late 2000s, actually. And he was like an insane PvP monster. And I liked to play a shadow dancer who went around stabbing people in the back. And we made a pretty good team. It was pretty fun. And many shenanigans were had down through the years. Proctor, you're in the UK. You'd catch fire if you touch a gun. I live in Ireland. Ireland actually does not have terrible gun laws. You can legitimately own a firearm in Ireland for various different reasons. I think that hunting, you can get most kinds of shotgun and hunting rifles if you're a hunter. But I don't think there's any kind of recreational license. It's a purpose license that you need, and I can't be bothered with that. And also the prices are insane. I think the very cheapest kind of gun you can get in Ireland is minimum of 1,000 euros. Proctor, you're a hag. I'm 31. Okay, I'm not a hag. Well, I maybe I am a hag, but I've got plenty of juice left in me. Trust me. Where have I missed any comments? The state will prosecute you for trying to help. I agree, it's pretty tragic. Proctor wants to save the fox. I mean, Kircher is doing a pretty good job of saving herself, honestly. She's out in the wilds, she's meeting people, she's driving around, she's getting blazed on weed. She's really breaking out of her shell, and I love to see it, because that poor woman has been stuck inside her apartment with a gay Korean for far too damn long. A haggard, if you will. I can be very haggard by the way the world is. But going back to the article or the incident for a moment, I used to actually, let me just look it up on my YouTube thing. China has no good. Yeah, this is a 15-minute video, but I was gonna have a quick look at it and see if there's any instant. No, I'm gonna, but I will put it in the comments, not in the comments, in the chat, because I used to watch this guy, SerpentZ a lot. He moved out of China eventually, and I think he kind of become a bit of an anti of China, and I completely agree with most of the things he says, but he got a bit more kind of vitriolic and clickbaity, which I can understand, because China literally tried to arrest him and throw him in a jail cell where he would almost 100% without doubt have died or been murdered. So I can understand why he hates China, but he's gone from like living in China and giving social commentary on China from living in California and raging at China on the internet, which I just don't watch him any longer because of that. He's no longer got the unique perspective. China has no good, correct? Yeah, but I mean, his whole point through that very good video that I watched is basically that the Chinese psyche is, we don't care. Anything, and he gives a whole lot of video examples as well of people actually staging events where they try and they for example have an actor pretend to be kidnapped who screams and yells in a public park with dozens of people around while men try and drag her off, and nobody cares. Not a single person cares. It's astonishing. It is actually surreal to watch these hundreds of people in a park do absolutely nothing as this woman is dragged away from the park, kicking and screaming for her life. And it's the result of a society which has no higher cause at all beyond worship the state unconditionally, or in their case, worship money unconditionally. You can't let yourself be like that. I am from, put it this way, I am from a religion that is actively pacifist. Like, my denomination of Christianity is actively pacifist. We do not fight in wars. We do not engage in violent acts towards each other under any circumstances. And yet even we are allowed to do things like step in if somebody else is getting violently assaulted. If we think that, and we're allowed to defend ourselves if we feel that our lives are at risk. And this is a denomination that says, if you murder, you are basically doing something that is irredeemably terrible. Well, not irredeemably, but the worst thing you can possibly do is deprive another human being of their right to life. And even they say you should actively step up and help people if you see them being assaulted or attacked. I thought you were a Mormon. No, I am not a Mormon, okay? Okay? I am definitely not a Mormon. No. Although I have met Mormon missionaries before. I will say that although I've only met Mormons in Ireland on missionary tours and everything, they do seem to be decent people. I would not mind interacting with more Mormons. They're certainly, I will say, the denomination of Christianity that I deeply and passionately despise are born-again Christians. I hate born-again Christians. I find them completely insufferable. I find they are the definition of huffing your own farts Christianity. They're just like, oh, I am saved and it's wonderful. It's just, I'm just of such a higher class than you damned individuals. And oh yes, I really can't share. It's a personal kind of thing. I just know that I'm chosen. I have a higher calling, and you just wouldn't understand it. You haven't been kissed by Jesus in the way that I have. And the kind of people that will proactively, if they know you are a different denomination of Christianity, they will proactively try and mess with you, purely for the purpose of taunting and teasing you with the idea that you are going to hell and they are going to be saved. It is completely infuriating. I really, really despise born-again Christians. You sound like you're choking up. Stop. You sound like Nick. Who is Nick? I'm not sure who you're talking about. My mother is a Mormon, so I've known quite a lot of them. Their theology is kind of wacky, but the religion has a way of creating good people. That one episode of South Park is spot on about them. You sound like you're choking up. Keep going. I don't like American evangelicalism. I mean, it depresses me when people view religion as an absolute thing, because there's these, let me actually just look it up one moment. Please give me a moment, because I have, with my ADHD and things, I'm terrible. I can quote large sections of the Bible off the top of my head, but it's very difficult for me to remember precisely where things are. So please give me a moment to actually look this up. Like, this is the basis that I have always been taught to regard things. Can I find it easily? Yes, here it is. I'll just look it up. Yeah, it's from Matthew chapter 7, verses 15 to 20, and it says, "Be on the watch for the false prophets, who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inside they are ravenous wolves. By their fruits you will recognize them. Never do people gather grapes from thorns, or figs from thistles, do they? Likewise, every good tree produces fine fruit, but every rotten tree or poisoned tree produces worthless fruit. A good tree cannot bear worthless fruit, nor can a rotten tree produce fine fruit. Every tree not producing fine fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. Really then, by their fruits you will recognize these false prophets." Yes, literally, please be patient, I have autism. And that section of scripture is something that my parents always emphasized with me very heavily, is that there's another as well that I think that I will look up just briefly as well, because and it's a quotation from the Apostle Paul, which underscores things very nicely. Where is it? No. Yes, here it is. Romans 2:14. Romans 2:14. Actually, I might as well read Romans 2:12 to 15. For all those who sinned without law will also perish without law, but all those who sinned under law will be judged by law. By law, he is, of course, talking about God's law. For the hearers of law are not the ones righteous before God, but the doers of law will be declared righteous. So in other words, and one of the things that I absolutely despise about the born-again Christians is that they have this idea of once saved, always saved. In other words, they believe essentially, or at least the ones that I have met, again, I'm not applying this to all born-again Christians, this is very much my own personal experience, but the impression that I very strongly got from many of them is that I have been secretly visited by Jesus Christ and I have been declared righteous and special. Therefore, anything that I do after this point is automatically right, because Jesus has recognized my own special righteousness. So while they'll say, I respect the law and all that kind of thing, but they're saying, I've been recognized as special, therefore anything that I do is automatically correct. Anyway, that was 13. But when people of the nations who do not have the law, that is, they have not heard of God's law, do by nature the things of the law, these people, although not having law, are a law to themselves. They are the very ones who demonstrate the matter of the law to be written in their hearts, while their conscience is bearing witness with them, and by their own thoughts they are being accused or even excused. My favourite verse has to be Luke 17:20-21. The kingdom of God cometh not with observation, for behold, the kingdom of God is within you. And that's also very often, I think, misapplied. And it's something that I hold against the Catholics, because a lot of them say, oh, the kingdom of God is literally within you. But from everything that I've read and from my understandings, the kingdom of God is within you, as in you are carrying out the works of the kingdom of God. You are proving yourself righteous for the kingdom of God by your actions. That once saved, always saved thing is outright heresy. If it was the truth, then go and sin no more would be pointless. Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. Absolutely. You should read about the Munster Rebellion. They were a major precursor to modern baptism and were like schizophrenic proto-Bolsheviks, harrowing accounts. That is quite interesting. Allow me to just do the thing where I screenshot that comment and put it in my stream material. But, and I will for later, because I do enjoy, well, I kind of enjoy looking up this kind of thing as well. But, as I was saying with Paul, what the Apostle Paul is basically saying is that it's quite possible for somebody to be deemed righteous because they are doing the things of the law, even though they do not know the law, as in they never read the Bible, because people are born with certain moral principles. Because, and I look at it like this, if God created people, then there's no sense in the idea that God would create people naturally with desires that would be not beneficial to them. All the things that humans do that are sins are basically an excess of something that is otherwise beneficial. For example, sexual immorality is basically just having sex outside of a position where it is natural and normal for humans to have sex. And it's the same with drug abuse, that humans are naturally programmed to seek out pleasurable things to eat, because things that are pleasurable to eat in nature tend to be good for you. And it's the same with things like caffeine and even natural versions of many kinds of drugs, that humans are basically biologically programmed to seek out these things, and then those things will give them some kind of benefit in nature. And so it makes no sense to me that God would create humanity and go, I have created you with these specific desires that if you fulfill them in any way, you are automatically a sinner. That is completely ridiculous that a loving God would do that to people. So instead, I read these words of Paul as saying that basically you can grow up in a society and you can have no knowledge of the Bible or God's word or anything like that. But if you are a balanced individual, if you, everything is a poison in excess. If you practice restraint, if you obey the laws that are beneficial to the human condition, then you can be judged righteous because you don't know anything better, and yet you are still doing the things that are good in the eyes of God. And again, it's stupid to me that God would only acknowledge good acts if they were done entirely in his name. There's a good story about a scientist putting a dozen people on a boat at sea for months. I've read that. I know about that story. I've actually watched documentaries on that story. Yeah, there's a good story about the scientists putting a dozen people on a boat at sea for months to prove they'll end up like the Lord of the Flies. In the end, he went crazy because they all end up as best friends. Yes. And this is something that I hold massively against. Let me just go back to just chatting for a second because I'm rambling at this point. This is something that I hold massively against the Enlightenment Era. The Enlightenment Era and its consequences have been a disaster for the human race. Because the Enlightenment Era, if you read about it, was a time of the exact opposite. The Enlightenment Era was a time of complete insanity, where so-called enlightened intellectuals were going around building altars and shrines to the god of knowledge or the gods of nihilism. And they were creating their own papacies and their own weird hermetical religions around the idea, oh, there is no God, but, knowledge is an all-powerful universal thing. And what immediately turns me off any kind of philosopher or thinker, it doesn't matter if they're otherwise, there are several philosophers who are atheists who I'm willing to watch and I'm willing to listen to, because I feel as if, although they are atheists, they still fundamentally have a grasp on the human condition, whereas there are other philosophers, some of whom aren't even atheists, who look back at the Enlightenment Era and they say, oh, the Enlightenment Era was a wonderful and beautiful time when we finally threw off the shackles of ignorance and we embraced the scientific mindset. And I'm like, no, are you completely insane? The same people that you are praising were doing things like rounding up tens of thousands of peasants who dared to hold on to their old religions. They were tying them up and putting them on barges, floating them out into the middle of the river, and then sinking those barges. Like, you are actually glorifying the attitudes of some of history's worst and most aggressive murderers who slaughtered anyone who dared to disagree with them with a fervor and a violence that not even the Catholic Inquisition could ever dream of matching. Like, the Enlightenment Era is bathed in the blood of innocent people who did nothing. You could be an atheist in pre-Enlightenment France, and you would have less chance of being murdered than you would to be somebody who was an atheist after the Enlightenment Era if you just questioned the wrong person, or you were an atheist in the wrong way. Richard Dawkins and Stephen Fry are the reason why England morally went to hell in a handbasket, in my opinion. Yes, I completely agree with that. I find Richard Dawkins to be a massive hypocrite, and what's more, Richard Dawkins seems to be desperately trying to convince himself in everything that he writes. I have no idea how such a miserable person has not killed himself long ago, because if you take Richard Dawkins' attitudes at face value, he is just a completely miserable individual whose entire being seems to be dedicated to making you both hate the idea that you are alive and just destroying any concept of a higher purpose to life. And then he goes, oh no, it's fine because I've liberated you from all of that nonsense. You can now go on and you can enlighten others. You can make your mission in life anything you want to be. Aren't I wonderful? Oh, just smell my farts. I'm sorry, you can probably tell that I tend to get quite passionate about this kind of thing. Magdalena's Rex again. The Enlightenment was hijacked by Frenchmen who were Gnostic as fuck. Englishmen had cookie ideas, but it was due to reason fetishism instead of blatant Luciferianism. Knowledge is also inaccurate if you don't have every solution. It's very hard to attain. It's also moral because data does not care about your feelings. The Rothschild money propped up Dawkins, if I remember correctly. Yes, we do glow a tiny bit in this chat. I would say that Dawkins. Also, that's an interesting thing. I find it now. I will admit, you're free to call me cringe from this, but I actually used to enjoy Jordan Peterson's work a decent amount. I think that Jordan Peterson is actually a very good interviewer. When he is interviewing other people and interacting with other people and giving presentations that are interactive, he can actually be extremely nice to listen to. I think that Jordan Peterson is otherwise quite a pseudo-intellectual, and when he's left on his own to talk, he just kind of rambles on in very bizarre and weird ways. But again, as an interviewer, I think he is actually extremely good. But what I can't help but notice is that Jordan Peterson will tear apart the Bible, down to its last shreds, and he will recontextualize every story within the Bible as like man's discovery of himself and so on. But I've never once seen him do the same to any of the rabbinical teachings or anything of the, the Jewish holy books or anything like that. And I can't help but wonder why. Why would he focus so much time and attention on tearing down all of the Bible's implications towards a higher power, and yet I have never heard him say even a single word against any of the Jewish holy books and the Jewish holy traditions. He'll quite happily tear down the Christian version of, say, the Hebrew scriptures, but what about stuff like the oy vey, stop noticing? Yes, I am very much noticing. I am very, very much noticing. I will keep discouraging too flagrant a use of the term Gnostic. There have been too many disparate schools of thought to which that term can be applied. I more or less agree. Touch fluffy tail, sadly, atheists/agnostics like Carl Sagan, who had a very good grasp on reality and a deep appreciation for life, are in a minority. I myself am an atheist, and I feel nothing but repulsion for these people. Lamau, 1, he's a Jungian. 2, he has a Jewish wife. Peterson's payroll is owned by funny hat-wearing people. Yeah, you can't help but notice. Maybe he hasn't studied the Jewish text. Arclight, that is the most optimistic attitude I have ever seen in my entire life. No, again, a vast amount of reason why I stopped watching most of these people and why I find them just repulsive is that what they do is they tear down any idea of higher purpose, and they say, oh, humans are the be-all and end-all of knowledge. But the thing is, but what they don't do, like, I have a level of respect for, say, an anarchist who will say, there is no God, there is no higher purpose in the universe, my way is the only way because I have the force to back it up, and the only thing that matters is the things that I can enforce with my fists, or my guns, or something like that. Okay, I have a level of respect for that person simply because they are not lying to themselves. Whereas, what I have gotten sick and tired with, and I find deeply pathetic, is all of the philosophers and all of the learned thinkers who, like Peter Boghossian, and also to an extent Jordan Peterson, and to an extent James Lindsay as well, they have this attitude of, oh yeah, there is no higher purpose, there are only humans in the universe, but they have this weird idea that humans then have to create God in their own image. They are really no atheists, their God is their ego. Yes, I would agree with you. Well, again, the scriptures themselves say a God is whatever a man places his trust in the most. There's a clip of an audience member on one of his events recommending Solzhenitsyn's 200 Years Together to him. His response is quite revealing. That's quite interesting. I've not actually read 200 Years Together myself. I really should read more of Solzhenitsyn's work. I'm an atheist, but I won't take away other people's way to cope with the reality. Yeah, a lot of these thinkers, they will tear down any idea of a higher cause to life. But then they'll say, oh, we believe that you should now uphold these particular things that we think are important. They'll say, oh, there's no truth to any of the divine aspects of the Bible, but we think these important moral lessons from the Bible are important to take and apply to everyday culture. And then they will be incredibly upset and angry, and they will make an entire platform out of being furious that people don't agree with them. And they will go, don't these stupid young people understand what they're doing? Don't they understand they're destroying civilization? Don't they grasp that you need to have higher powers, you need to have a higher cause and purpose in life, you need to have higher, culture in life? And I'm just sitting here, and every time they say that, and I go, guys, you literally took sledgehammers to the idea of traditional higher purposes, of higher culture, of things for people to put their morals and their moral and idealistic attentions towards. You smashed that down with your bare hands. You took a sledgehammer to it, and you had no You had absolutely no shame in doing so. You are literally reaping what you sowed. You went up there. You stood up to all of these religious leaders and these old traditions, and you said there is no reason for anyone to put faith in any of these things. Human beings are the be-all and the end-all. And now you're surprised? You are surprised, and you dare to turn around and say to the people that came after you, oh no, we totally should believe in these things, just in the way that we want to. I can get very, very passionate about this kind of stuff. I can rant about this stuff for hours and hours and hours because it is so frustrating to me. And I have much more respect for an atheist that just goes, I don't believe there is any higher power, and the only thing that I believe in is force. Because at the very least, that is a rational viewpoint if you don't believe in a god. Whereas these half-assed intellectuals seem to think, oh, we destroyed God, but don't worry, we can just make an effigy of him. And somehow we expect people to worship that effigy that we've created, this false idol. And that's supposed to have an authority that transcends our own. Like, how? You're the ones that just showed there is no authority beyond human values. You're the ones that are arguing for that. You can't have it both ways. Dear. I really do get too invested in this kind of stuff. I'm sorry, guys. This was supposed to be a stream about various different things, but I just keep looping back on this stuff because it really does frustrate me. So let's actually move on to something a bit more on topic, because I insist on actually getting through. I'm making a commitment to actually cover the things that my stream title says that I will cover. So give me just a moment, please. Yes, there's the... I will cover this first, because this is quite entertaining. I haven't actually... I'm an idiot. I haven't actually got this one up, so give me just 1 second. PC Gamer Fallout... I am a terrible... That's Games Radar. Are you serious? Is this just another one of those articles? Oh, that is Games Radar. Okay, I thought it was PC Gamer for a second. I believe in a god called Matsuri. I'll see myself out. Dear. Right, here we are. Fallout's surge in popularity has reminded everyone of New Vegas's most overpowered mechanic, bisexuality. Oh, yes. The bisexual buff is a very real thing in New Vegas. The Fallout TV show is doing absolute wonders for the popularity of the post-apocalyptic RPG series, with a significant uptick in the player counts of the games. Yeah, people are playing the games because they are so sick of the hatchet job that the TV show did to the lore of Fallout, so they're just like... yeah, as they admit, this has also led to players new and old discovering and reminiscing about one of Fallout New Vegas's greatest and most overpowered mechanics, which makes bisexual people canonically stronger than everyone else. Can you detect a tiny bit of a gender in this article, maybe? Just a tiny bit. Also, I'll zoom in a little bit. Equal opportunity murderer, yes. Let's rewind. In case you were unfamiliar, in Fallout New Vegas, every 2 levels you get an option to unlock a regular perk to bolster your courier skill set. Some of these essentially define your character's sexuality, with options to be straight, gay, lesbian, or bi, the latter of which is unlocked by selecting 2 of the sexuality-related perks rather than just 1. Wins for inclusion aside, these perks come with another bonus beyond being able to flirt with NPCs. They also include attack bonuses. Specifically, the Black Widow and Ladykiller perks grant exclusive dialogue options with NPCs of the opposite gender of your couriers, along with a 10% damage boost towards them. On the other hand, Cherchez la Famille, I'm very sorry to any French people. Actually, no, I'm British. All French people can go die in a fire. And Confirmed Bachelor do the exact same thing, but towards NPCs of the same gender. There are no non-binary characters in New Vegas. But this means that players can choose both aforementioned perks. Who can choose both aforementioned perks end up with a 10% attack boost towards all human characters in the game. You can call it a bisexual buff, and new players finding it out for the first time are loving it. Bisexuals are canonically stronger in New Vegas? Bro, that's so effing cool, one writes. And this is a how much do you bet this tweet has been completely degraded? Let's have a look at this. So this... Are you fucking joking? I'm noticing. I'm noticing. Oy vey. Every time. Stop looking. Let's look at some of these replies. Show more replies. Oh wait, shit. Oh wait, that's this could also be porn bots. I forgot. Let me just scroll down very slowly as I forgot. And of course, here somebody says, what do you say? Why do you say canonically? There's nothing to do with the lore. It's just some perks. Yeah, exactly. So insane. Oh yeah, this is actually a good point. So insane you have to mod Fallout 4 for that perk to work both ways. So actually, yeah, New Vegas is more progressive than Fallout 4. Somebody should call out Bethesda on that. Stop digging near the tunnels, Proctor. The 5-pointed Star Destroyer laser is homing in on your location. Well. It's like the chirp, guys. This is my version of the chirp. What the hell? What was just posted? Sorry, I'm just looking back at my Discord for a second. Canada, 14-year-old trans kid performing sexualized shows at LGBT bars in Vancouver. I might cover that later. For now, I swear I'm gonna stay on track. Let's move on with that. But yeah, I feel like it's. Let's just look back up again. Actually, look at these number of views this got. This got 4,742 views. This is 20. So this is 2 days ago. About a little over 48 hours, I think. And this guy, Yeehoo, has 11,000 followers. And yet he only has 4,742 views in 2 days. I think this guy might be botting his follower number just a tiny bit. I almost lost my hat laughing. You be careful. Those hats are very, very valuable. You can't be seen without those hats. But I find this really hilarious because, like, this tweet is directly referenced in the article. This is Catherine Lewis, by Catherine Lewis, published 2 days ago. Let's just look down at the, where is it? Because it should have, Catherine Lewis, news writer, danger hair. I don't believe any of this bio whatsoever. This very much looks to me, so wait a second, this guy is also Yeah, comicyahoo@gmail.com. I read comics and play video games. So this is a nepotism article. And this is a nepotism reference, because this guy has only 5,000 views on his tweet. Yeah, beyond AstroTurfed. Germany made it legal to be trans at 11 months old. We nuked the wrong country. Yeah, that sounds like Canada. I know. It's not too late. It's not too late just to just say, you know, we owe Germany these 2 nuclear weapons via express delivery. It's a fact that old fans have been doing their best to share around, with one veteran describing it as one of the most optimal ways to play. The bonuses for New Vegas's bisexual characters don't end with the attack buffs either, with another fan on Twitter pointing out, what's funny about being bisexual too is it gives you dialogue options where you hit on people and they're like, thank you, but I'm not interested. Here are various resources for free. Let me just have a look at these tweets as well. No matter what way you want to think about it, bisexual people really do stay winning in New Vegas. So if you're new to Fallout and want to make the strongest character possible in the fan favorite 10/20/10 RPG, you know what to do. And this is one of the stupid things as well, because you're getting a 10% damage boost to your character for characters of the opposite sex. Or even, so it's a 10% universal damage boost on human characters. Okay. The thing is, there are single perks that give 15% damage boosts for every enemy in the entire game. So when it says this is overpowered, it's saying you need to spend 2 perks, of which you only get about 20 if I think the maximum level in Fallout New Vegas with all the DLC is 40? Maybe 30. So you get either 15 or 20 perks in the entire game. Yeah, as Touch Fluffy Tail said, so bisexuals are better at killing people. And also, yeah, let's look at some of these tweets. I bet you end up thinking these tweets are AstroTurfed as well. No, sorry. I just dropped the bottle cap that I was touching. I'm touching a bottle cap because I'm stimming. I am really, really stimming tonight. So that's that idiot. Twitter.com. Yeah, this is 1 million views. Okay. Oh, that's a Corey Brickley illustration. Justice for Palestine every single time. Wait until you hear New Vegas bisexuals. Cloddy, 2,254 followers. Fallout New Vegas has lesbianism. Wait a second. So this guy, oh, okay, this might be just a case of Adam and Jane. What? You're joking. This person has 618 followers. And this tweet has 9.2 million views. Max level 50, max perks 25, an optimal build takes neither of these perks except speedrunners killing Benny as Femme Courier. So 9.2 million views. This is attracting Fallout fans. If any Fallout fan sees this game, should I play up the New Vegas? And this guy has 1 million views as well. I'm sorry, I don't believe these numbers. Yeah, Proctor got baited. I'm glad I'm in Slovakia currently. Yeah. I'm glad I'm in Ireland, although Ireland is tragically getting very, very paused at the moment. Hopefully it'll reverse itself a little bit, because I think people are completely fed up and pissed off. They are no longer tolerating the goy slop as much as they did. It really depresses me when I read stuff like this, because it just shows how pathetic journalism is these days, and how little you should trust anything that comes out of the mainstream. I think somebody recently said that if you want to look at news for anything, what you should do is go on at least 3 different search engines, search for the topic, and then go to at least the 3rd page in order to get non-AstroTurfed news sources. And I kind of agree with it. Isn't Slovakia what they accuse Poland of being, namely full of femboys? Which country is it that has like the massive femboy thing? I know it's some Slavic countries, but not specifically which ones. Slovenia might be. I'm glad the Russian conversion mods for classic Fallout never going to get attention from new fans. I have not played those conversion mods. I would really like to. I really need to, because I've heard they're great. But I should look them up at some point. So let me just close these tabs, get this off my face. And I can feel another massive belch coming on. I do apologize. Oh my. You need to be media literate to recognize their tricks. I quite agree, and it's distressing to me. Well, there's a reason why media literacy is no longer taught in schools. It's the reason why competitive debate is no longer a thing in schools either. Right. Which one am I going for now? I think this one. No, that's done. Yep, that's just the Dexerto thing announcing the FTC has banned non-compete agreements for American workers. The rule goes into effect after 120 days, but lawsuits are expected that could delay it. I really hope that it does not get delayed. So I'll just close that stupid tab as I never want to see it on my screen again. And here is the actual ruling as well. I will read it in full because it's not too long, as you can see. It's not too long at all. Today, the Federal Trade Commission issued a final rule to promote competition by banning non-competes nationwide, protecting the fundamental freedom of workers to change jobs, increasing innovation, and fostering new business formation. Non-compete clauses keep wages low, suppress new ideas, and rob the American economy of dynamism, including from the more than 8.5 thousand... Sorry, why am I saying 8.5? 8,500 new startups that will be created a year once non-competes are banned, said FTC Chair Lena M. Khan. The FTC's final rule to ban non-competes will ensure Americans have the freedom to pursue a new job, start a new business, or bring a new idea to market. The FTC estimates that the final rule banning non-competes will lead to a new business formation growing by 2.7 per year, resulting in more than 8,500 additional new businesses created each year. The final rule is expected to result in higher earnings for workers, with estimated earnings increasing for the average worker by an additional $524 per year, and it is expected to lower healthcare costs by up to $194 billion over the next decade. Holy shit! Why is it going to affect healthcare costs so much? I didn't even realize that. $194 billion! How... Alex, if you're still in the chat, can you tell me why would banning non-competes save so much on healthcare? In addition, the final rule is expected to help drive innovation, leading to an estimated average increase of 17,000 to 29,000 more patents each year for the next 10 years under the final rule. Non-competes are a widespread and often exploitative practice imposing contractual conditions that prevent workers from taking a new job or starting a new business. Non-competes often force workers to either stay in a job they want to leave or bear other significant harms and costs, such as being forced to switch to a lower-paying field, being forced to relocate, being forced to leave the workforce altogether, or being forced to defend against expensive litigation. An estimated 30 million workers, nearly 1 in 5 Americans, are subject to non-compete. That is an insane number. Under the FTC's new rule, existing non-competes for the vast majority of workers will no longer be enforceable after the rule's effective date. Existing non-competes for senior executives who represent less than 0.75% of workers can remain in force under the FTC's final rule, but employers are banned from entering into or attempting to enforce any new non-competes, even if they involve senior executives. Employers will be required to provide notice to workers other than senior executives who are bound by an existing non-compete that they will not be enforcing any non-competes against them. That is a very nice clause, so that workers will know for a fact that they are not going to be harassed by non-completes. I think that the FTC had a very wise moment of foresight when they did this, because I can absolutely imagine people in the workforce being oppressed by unenforceable non-competes just because they didn't realize their company was no longer able to enforce them. In January 2023, the FTC proposed a rule which was subject to a 90-day public comment period. The FTC received more than 26,000 comments on the proposed rule, with over 25,000 comments in support of the FTC's ban on non-competes. I would really like to see some of the comments that were against it. The comments informed the FTC's final rulemaking process, Democracy in Action, with the FTC carefully reviewing each comment and making changes to the proposed rule in response to the public's feedback. Again, Democracy in Action. I really like this. In the final rule, the Commission has determined that it is an unfair method of competition, and therefore a violation of Section 5 of the FTC Act, for employers to enter into non-competes with workers and to enforce certain non-competes. The Commission found that non-competes tend to negatively affect competitive conditions in labour markets by inhibiting efficient matching between workers and employers. The Commission also found that non-competes tend to negatively affect competitive conditions in product and service markets, inhibiting new business formation and innovation. There is also evidence that non-competes lead to increased market concentration and higher prices for consumers. I agree with all of that. Proctor, check Cheehouse when you finish reading this, by the way. Okay, I will in a few minutes. Unless you're going to Enton, of course. What do you mean by that? I imagine. I don't know what Enton is, Maniacal Foreigner. VTuber black companies in shambles. Imagine if someone at the FTC was just a huge Selene fan. Okay, we'll just quickly check the treehouse. Do not read on stream. Okay. Let me just look through this. Okay, thank you very much for that. Eton College. Oh, Eton. I thought you said Eton or something. I thought you were talking about something in America. The university. Yeah, what I would find most interesting, and that I'm not sure of yet, perhaps the... I thought you said Enron, actually, Maniacal Foreigner. I thought, because my mind was like, oh, he's talking about an American thing, so he must have mistyped Enron. I'm sorry about that. This is how the autistic mind works. Alternatives to non-competes. The Commission found that employers have several alternatives to non-competes that still enable firms to protect their investments without having to enforce a non-compete. Trade secret laws and non-disclosure agreements provide employers with well-established means to protect proprietary and other sensitive information. Researchers estimate that over 95% of workers with a non-compete already have an NDA. The Commission also finds that instead of using non-competes to lock in workers, employers that wish to retain employees can compete on the merits of for the workers' labour services by improving wages and working conditions. Changes from the NPRM. Under the final rule, existing non-competes for senior executives can remain in force. Employers, however, are prohibited from entering into or enforcing new non-competes with senior executives. The final rule defines senior executives as workers earning more than $151,164 annually and who are in policy-making positions. That is an extremely specific number. Why is it not just 151,000 or 150,000? Why the extra 1,164? I don't understand that. If somebody could explain that to me, I would be extremely interested. Additionally, the Commission has eliminated a provision in the proposed rule that would have required employers to legally modify existing non-competes by formally rescinding them. That change will help to streamline compliance. Instead, under the final rule, employers will simply have to provide notice to workers bound to an existing non-compete that the non-compete agreement will not be enforced against them in the future. To aid employers' compliance with this requirement, the Commission has included model language in the final rule that employers can use to communicate to workers. The Commission vote to approve the insurance of the final rule was 3-2, with Commissioners Melissa Hollyoak and Andrew N. Ferguson voting no. Commissioners' written statements will follow at a later date. I would be quite interested in reading these statements to figure out why the two refused to vote yes. That's quite an interesting note for me. The final rule will become effective 120 days after publication in the Federal Register. Now, the thing that I would like to know is whether this applies to American citizens working for overseas companies who still live in America. For example, if an American VTuber working for Niji Sanji was still living in America and was legally registered as working in America, would a foreign company be able to enforce a non-compete against them? That's my question. I imagine it's calculated based on statistical averages. That's actually a good idea. That's actually a good point, Maniacal Foreigner. I do appreciate that. And as some people have pointed out, this is going to have an important effect on VTubing as a whole when it comes to, because there have been companies in the past that have tried to enforce non-competes against talents, and being able to say, no, non-competes just don't apply anymore will stop an awful lot of potential abuse in the industry, I believe. However, NDAs are still a thing, and as was pointed out earlier in the article, NDAs are unaffected by this rule, and NDAs are the primary way that VTuber corporations currently prevent VTubers from speaking out against their policies, which I find to be very upsetting and very disingenuous. I firmly believe that if you are terminated or are forced to leave a company because of that company's incompetence, then an NDA should no longer apply. I actually have... I have a non-complete that I won't read it on stream, but I did find it to be fairly logical overall that somebody was very kind to send me from one of their previous jobs. It does actually have some identifying information left in it, so I will not read it on stream. But can't any court decide to strike down an NDA? They can, but the problem is, a lot of VTubers think that NDAs are just fully binding no matter what. And a lot of them are too scared to challenge these NDAs. A lot of them are women who are fairly mentally unstable because, you can't be a VTuber without at least one mental illness. And they refuse to challenge these NDAs simply because they can't handle the idea. They just do not want to go through the mental stress. Because a lot of these companies are run by unstable individuals. Look at Jason from Accio Air. Because Jason from Accio Air had a completely unenforceable contract with his talents. And yet he harassed them and he threatened legal action against them anyway. And he wanted to charge them, I think it was also, was it V&U? Yes, it was V&U. Who, was it Alien Jelly or something? Who left their company. And that's her new VTuber name, except I don't think it's exactly what it is. Maybe getting her confused with Moon Jelly from Phase Connect. But, yeah, she left V&U, and V&U said to her, you have to pay back something like $150,000 to us, because that Alien Mixture, thank you, Alien Mixture. Yes, it's Alien Mixture. That you have to pay us something like $150,000 back, which is the amount of money we invested in you, that we feel you owe us, and that's part of your contract. And she was fortunate enough, Amano Serafi, yes. Yes, Alien Mixture is her indie name, and Amano Serafi was her VTuber name, was her name under VNU. And she said, yeah, F off, I'm not doing any of this. And she was fortunate in that I think she's gotten away from it without any issues. But again, she's under an NDA and she will not speak out in full about this. And I find that really depressing. I mean, another problem is that if a VTuber breaks an NDA, then they are basically making themselves completely unhireable in future, because no other company is, with anything to lose, is going to bring somebody on who they know was going to break off their contract and break off their NDA. Basically, somebody who understands their rights in the VTuber industry is never going to get hired if they make it known that they understand their rights, because VTuber corporations, I honestly don't think it even matters what corporation it is. I think Phase Connect and other companies like that, again, I don't know this, but I would assume so because it is so completely ubiquitous. I would bet to hell and back that every VTuber company out there has at least some form of unenforceable clauses in their contract that they simply expect the VTuber to not be able to challenge, and it's more of a mental hold over them than it is a physical hold, which depresses me, because I really think that VTubers ought to be as empowered as possible to pick and choose companies, and should be able to dictate terms to companies rather than the other way around. Except V Shoujo. Yeah, I think that V Shoujo has gone through a major redemption arc. It's now got Mika on its staff as well. Not on its staff, but I find, again, it's really miserable and depressing to think about how bad shit must be in Nichisanji. Because Mika in her streams was saying that when she got into V Hosho, she was assigned a manager, or she got a manager, I'm not entirely sure which, And she was absolutely astonished when her manager responded to her first request within 24 hours. She said she was used to waiting 3 weeks for a manager to get back to her about even simple questions. Imagine that. Imagine having to delay all of your important activities as part of a company by 3 whole weeks. And being so abused and so beaten down by that system that the idea of a manager responding to you within 24 hours is completely astonishing and dumbfounding, to the point you feel the need to mention it on stream and say how shocked you were by it. That is how beaten down the streamers at Nichi-Sanji are. That is how gaslit they are. It really, really depresses me. It really, 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 really depresses me. Give me a moment here, because there's something that I wanted to look up on stream. I'll have to... this is very annoying. I should have been more prepared on the stream. Yeah, this is... because there's something that I want to... Yes. There's a video that I want to run for people, because I will run it because I'm going to rest my jaw for a few minutes before we get into the next thing, because it's quite a big thing, and also I need to go to the bathroom, so I will put this up on screen now, or rather I will when I transfer it over to my streaming thing. There we go.
Today you've made...
There we are. Here we go, and I will be back in just a minute or two as I go to water the roses, shall we say. What the heck? What? Oh, I clicked on the wrong thing.
a major announcement that helps millions of workers in America. Tell us what that is.
BRB.
Today, the FTC has finalized a rule that will eliminate the vast majority of non-compete clauses in people's contracts. A non-compete clause is a provision that basically prevents people from taking a job with a competitor or starting a competing business, usually within a particular geographic area and for a certain period of time. So around 30 million American workers are covered by a non-compete.
The incredible number of non-compete clauses for ordinary people to keep wages low.
And so we're talking about fast food workers, security guards, nurses. We're talking about engineers, journalists, veterinarians. These are really people across sectors, across income levels.
So I could not work in my field for 1 full year within that radius.
And I hope nobody has to go through what I went through, because it was very, very emotional and very challenging.
We heard from workers who were working at a casino, got a better offer at a competing casino with higher wages, but because of the non-compete, they were locked in place. We heard stories from veterinarians who had to uproot themselves multiple times, switching states, all because a non-compete prevented them from being able to do business in the same state.
When you think of the workers and the impact on their wages and earnings in America, what do you anticipate is going to happen as a result of this non-compete ban?
Wages will go up.
I'm back now.
The average worker...
Let me just go back over that again, because I missed a little bit of it. Right. Yeah, what... Yeah, veterinarians is just absurd. Yeah, we've heard stories from veterinarians who had to uproot themselves multiple times, switching states all because of a non-compete. That's just absurd. A statewide non-compete is just completely insane to me as well. Wages don't have non-competes, lol, this is about something else. I'm not sure what you're talking about, Arclight, I really don't.
Impact on their wages and earnings in America. What do you anticipate is going to happen as a result of this non-compete ban?
Wages will go up. The average worker will make $529 more every year, which collectively means that tens of billions or hundreds of billions of dollars of wages will be going back to workers.
Help people understand why that is. So if there's hundreds of billions of dollars increasing in the economy, how did that happen?
That would happen because right now, workers are stuck in place because of these non-competes. And so even if they get a better job opportunity with higher wages, with better benefits, they can't actually switch jobs. which is bad for those workers. It's also bad for other workers who won't have the opportunities that are not being created because of these non-competes. So there's just less churn in the...
Why on earth does the screen go black on my OBS feed when I change to a different tab? That's so weird. That's really strange. Like, the tab doesn't change. Click the wrong thing again. No, I didn't. It's strange. Maybe it's just the way the screen capture works. Like, obviously you can still hear the sound, but the video itself cuts out, and I don't understand why. If I change the tab that I'm looking at, because I was looking at something in the background just then. I'll have to look that up at some point. 529 isn't that much. I mean, that's a not insubstantial sum, even so, and spread out over the entire economy, that's a lot. Because it never goes back? What do you mean? Yeah, don't nurses have to do the same with non-competes? The whole nursing non-compete stuff is insane as well. Yeah, as as Alex just said, it'll be a lot higher for the people who take advantage of it, entrepreneurs mostly. And I believe very strongly that people should be educated about these kinds of things so they are able to take advantage of it. It's people don't properly understand how these rule changes actually affect them beyond, oh, I don't have to deal with that thing anymore. Why does the screen go black? Because it never goes back. Azihara. Traveling nurses get paid a lot more. I mean, the whole nursing, healthcare nonsense, insanity. Oh, it really annoys me. It's, like, you know, Linux, like Comfy Linux, who has not been able to start streaming again, which is a shame, because I quite like Linux. Like, she had this thing where she's moved into special accommodation because she is very severely disabled IRL. She needs a wheelchair now, and she has a wheelchair, and she moved into housing that was designed for a wheelchair. And she has, I think it's 24/7 carer access now. But the thing, and she lives in Scotland, poor girl. And she recently had a conversation with her caregivers where she said, okay, I've got my wheelchair now. Let's go. And they said, actually, we're not allowed to push you in your wheelchair. The wheelchair that we encouraged you to buy, that we got you into special accommodation to be able to use. At no point did we ever tell you, yeah, we can't actually push you. Because, Look, just shut up. Just shut up. We can't push it, all right? Just shut up. Just don't ask questions. Don't ask questions. And she has not been able to get them to tell her why they can't push her wheelchair. They say, oh, we can push it for very short distances, quote. That's a literal quote, what she said that they told her. But not for any further distances. It has to be very short distances. And I assume, I told her, you know, this is probably an insurance thing. You should chase it up. But yeah, she now has to get an electric wheelchair, which has a battery motor on it, because she cannot rely on her caregivers, which the government explicitly gives her to help her with her very serious physical disabilities, because they're denied by some ridiculous law or other from actually pushing her around. And I know it's the same in Australia too. I know somebody in Australia who has, well, I've kind of fallen out of contact with him now, but he has a form of epilepsy which causes him to basically blank out. It's a bit like Parkinson's in that he can go completely blank out and collapse for up to several hours at a time. And he's not in any physical danger when this happens, really. Sounds to me like an insurance fraud. I'm 100% certain it's an insurance thing. And so but the thing is, he can often fall in ways that block his airways and things like that. And he also, because of his condition, has 24/7 carers in his home. Because there is absolutely no warning when these attacks happen. He could just be doing something perfectly normally, and then suddenly he just freezes up, and his muscles go limp, and he's just completely out of it for several hours. In Australia, that's called getting drunk. But the thing is, his carers are not legally allowed to touch him when he has one of these episodes. They cannot touch him in any way. They cannot even approach him. So if he falls down in an awkward position where his airway is blocked, they are not legally allowed to touch him. The only thing they can do is call an ambulance. And here's the thing. The only thing the ambulance is allowed to do is check him into a drug rehab center. And he's not on drugs. This is not caused by drugs. And yet it's the only thing the ambulance is allowed to do. If they're called to his house, they are legally required to take him to a drug rehab center. Because there are no laws. There are laws saying the caregivers must call an ambulance instead of touch him directly, but the laws also say if the ambulance is called to his house after he's had a seizure, they have to automatically assume it's a drug-related seizure and take him to a drug rehab center. F that, I don't care if I'm not allowed or whatever, I'm saving that man's life. If this happened in the US, they would be sued into oblivion for criminal neglect. I would fucking well hope so. Enjoying that free healthcare yet? It's just insanity. It's just completely insane. And the thing is, again, what happens is that because these systems are so obscure and stupid, the only people that end up signing on to as caregivers in these kind of environments are people who have no other choice whatsoever, who cannot get any other kind of job. And so you get cared for by complete assholes and psychopaths who don't even care if you die. The system is fat and bloated. This is why ambulance ramping occurs. Exactly. It's very depressing. I've heard so many stories about genuine and sincere caregivers who love the elderly, who want to see elderly people cared for properly, or disabled people given the treatments they need, and they're just not allowed. Insurance comes along and says, no, you can't do this, and so they have to leave. They don't have a choice. They are literally declared criminals if they try and give the care that that their patients actually need. Anyway, let's continue this video as I continue eating my Marmite Crunch, which is incredibly delicious.
In the economy overall, there's less dynamism, and that means that wages are lower than they should be.
Corporate America, Chamber of Commerce, many of their allies want to fight this in the courtroom.
The Chamber of Commerce told us today that the FTC's rulemaking is unlawful, and they told me today it's already contemplating legal action against it.
What is our best understanding of why what you're doing today is legal and within your authority?
So the FTC Act that Congress passed clearly gives the FTC the authority to issue rules to carry out its obligations. The FTC Act also prohibits what are known as unfair methods of competition. The agency has determined that these non-competes are unfair methods of competition, and so we have the ability to issue a rule to outlaw them.
As chair of the Federal Trade Commission, one of your goals is to obviously see more competition in America. It's fair to say that if workers were given more freedom of movement, that you might also see more businesses sprout up?
Absolutely. A lot of the comments that we got were from workers that actually wanted to go start their own competing business. We heard from people in the asphalt business that saw an opportunity in the market, wanted to go start a rival firm, but weren't able to do so because they were locked in with a non-compete.
And there's actually, correct me if I'm wrong, there's attorneys and bankers who make a decent income who are also affected by non-compete agreements, right?
That's right. I mean, we got comments from across the income level. People making near minimum wage, but also people making tens of thousands of dollars or even hundreds of thousands of dollars, sharing stories about how non-competes had been devastating for their lives. We heard from doctors in rural America who shared how non-competes really limit their ability to continue providing care for their patients if they ever look to change employers. So this is having real world effects, harming Americans and harming their communities.
As you were talking, I was thinking of corporate M&A attorneys and big bankers at firms who work on mergers. And I would just want to make a point to them that Lena Khan's got your back. So you'll have more freedom of movement as a result of this non-compete ban.
Yes, that was an interesting interview. Mostly repeated the things that we've already read in the article, but I did find it quite illuminating. The idea that asphalt manufacturers or layers are subjected to non-competes is just insane to me. I have I can understand the idea of a non-compete if you are, let's say, a leading researcher or an innovator and there is a very serious chance that your innovations, when lent to another company, will cause that company to surpass your own, the one you're currently working with. But even then, it's a very self-serving measure, and I don't agree with it. I don't see any real reason why there should ever be a non-compete in place. I think that the workplace should bid on labor, and that things should be as competitive as possible. Alex, I know a traveling nurse who collects a pension from her original employer and works overflow 1 to 2 weeks per month, and she makes an incredible hourly rate. Magdalena's Rex, I don't trust this bill because I believe businesses have the right to discriminate who they keep employed, but on the other hand, this does just feel like something that helps the markets. Just don't trust it. I mean, I'm not opposed to the idea there could be some, poison dagger hidden among, in the cake, as it were. But overall, I think this is a good thing so far. I mean, maybe we'll revisit this in a few years and be like, yeah, I don't like this. But no, anything that prevents businesses from basically manipulating their employees and forcing their employees not to use their talent, I don't think there should ever be a situation where you are telling a fully qualified and trained person you are not allowed to use your skills that you developed personally to make money. I don't think that should ever be allowed under any circumstances. So hearing the problems in Britain and the UK is just baffling. It's what happened when you have a disarmed and occupied populace. Is the US, there's always poison. It's the US, there's always poison behind everything. I mean, I have no faith whatsoever in government activity, but Australia, also Canada. Canada is just a basket case in every capacity, in every sense of the word. And it's very upsetting to me. Allow me to just browse through a couple of things. Oh, I thought that Azarashi Alex wasn't streaming at the moment. Oh, that's a shame. Why are people posting giant titty muscle girls in wall scribblings? Wait, why do I even need to ask that question? Ugh. Okay. Let us go on to what I kind of consider to be the main course for tonight. Mother, should I trust the government? No. Canada is hell on earth. Insert yacht emote at mention of Canada. Australia is different to the UK. Our health system is a mix of public and of private and public. Yeah, and trust me, I've never heard a good word said about it. How Canadian are you? VTube remind us. Get me out of here! Main course 2 hours in. Look, it's been a long and tasty starter, all right? Along with a bit more noticing than I ever intended. But this is the thing that I wanted to talk about quite a bit. Also, has it seriously been nearly 2 hours already? My god damn, it actually has. I cannot believe I've rambled on for nearly 2 hours already. So this is 5 ways to prepare for the online privacy crackdown. And I thought this would be especially important given the recent TikTok ban. And I feel like commenting a bit about the TikTok ban because a lot of people don't really understand the TikTok ban. A lot of people are saying this is a win because, oh, it prevents China from spying on us. And you can have that viewpoint. I will agree that it is wrong for people to use a system, an application such as TikTok, because it does harvest your data. It definitely sells your data overseas. But the thing is, so does every single application out there that is in any way created by big business. YouTube sells your data, Google sells your data, all of these entities sell your data. There is, under no circumstance is TikTok in any way a unique offender in any of this. So I kind of disregard the, oh, TikTok is spying on you as a reason to ban TikTok, because it's a whataboutism. Like, what about Google, or what about all these other companies that are shamelessly spying on you in every way they possibly can? There's also the idea of that China pushes content that is harmful to the US, which I would strongly recommend Glenn Greenwald's videos about this, because he points out how ridiculous this notion is. It is true that TikTok curates the content that is on it, but at the same time, TikTok has actually become a place where an awful lot of counter-narrative news sources are actually found these days. An awful lot of the real journalism, independent journalism and material is posted on TikTok nowadays. And that very strongly and obviously motivates the US establishment to get rid of it, because it is a place where can be found a large audience of young people, and they are being exposed to non-mainstream sources of information, which are often genuinely informative and genuinely well-researched, especially on various controversial topics like Ukraine, Palestine, Israel, etc. So I disagree with it. I think, at the very least, it is a politically motivated ban. And also, as Glenn Greenwald points out, the US government multiple times in the past couple of years has gone to TikTok and has said, you must censor these things. You must censor this post. You must censor that post. For example, during COVID, TikTok had an awful lot of content that was the US government deemed misinformation. And the US government went to TikTok and said, yeah, you've got to censor this. And every single time the US government has gone to TikTok and told them to censor content, TikTok has complied. TikTok is completely open to censoring itself on behalf of the US government. There is no argument whatsoever that TikTok is being controlled by the Chinese government in order to push a Chinese propaganda narrative. That is a flat-out lie. That is a flat-out lie in every way, because TikTok will comply with any US censorship attempt, as has been proven multiple times. TikTok is completely beholden to US censorship regulations, and has been proven to do so. The idea that China is using TikTok as some kind of platform to prevent the USA from getting objective news or information about things is just absolute and total fantasy. You can't feed the American public misinformation. That's our job. Yeah, there's plenty. Again, let me just say, there is plenty of misinformation on TikTok. There is plenty of conspiracy theories. There is plenty of nonsense on TikTok. And there is plenty of outright Chinese propaganda on TikTok. What I am saying is simply that the mainstream narrative that TikTok is some kind of propaganda machine that is proactively used without control by the Chinese, without US control by the Chinese to brainwash American youth is transparently false. Because TikTok has made it very clear on multiple occasions it will comply with any US regulations short of banning it. And now the US has just gone, no, we don't care about regulation, we're just going to ban it. We can't be bothered, we cannot be bothered to go to this company which is literally begging and screaming at us to regulate them more and actually give them the regulations that we want. We're just going to say, go away, you're banned completely. So yeah, that's just my take on the TikTok thing. And for much better takes, go and watch Glenn Greenwald's videos on TikTok, because he I think has very rational and sensible practical analysis of the thing. And honestly, if you want to know why TikTok is terrible, go watch Upper Echelon's videos on TikTok as well, because I strongly believe in getting your news from as many sources as possible, and I think Upper Echelon has made a perfect case as to why TikTok has a bad influence on people's mentality and psyche and all of those kind of things. The only thing I disagree with is the idea that TikTok is proactively pushing this to the American public to in some way control their minds. No, the American public is just that stupid. I'm sorry. But I thought this article was particularly relevant because, as it says, 5 ways to prepare for the online privacy crackdown. I see an awful lot of people angry at censorship and so on the internet who don't actually take any kind of steps to protect their privacy online. And I think this is especially relevant when it comes to VTubers and their complete and total inability to control how they and what they post on the internet. And it also is very useful to understand what is happening out in the world so that people don't think they are using secure forms of communication when they're actually not. Upper Echelon is cringe a lot of the time, like with Doom. Is he good here? I mean, Upper Echelon has not made gaming content in a very long time. He's been a news channel for ages. Like, I've never watched an Upper Echelon video that I thought was out and out bad. Nobody has ever lost money underestimating the intelligence of the American public. Touch Fluffy Tail. The US wanted to force TikTok to be sold to an American company first. Once that deal went to shit, they moved to the ban. They just want to replace that stupid app with their own version. I agree completely. On the bright side, if historical trends are anything to go by, the trend of centralization is already starting to reverse, and we're going to be entering a period of decentralization. I would sincerely hope so. I wouldn't be as optimistic as you are, Gigadramon6, but I do think that decentralization is slowly happening. But I think it's a bell curve style thing. And the bell curve is a book that I massively recommend. I talked about it a bit at the start of stream. But the bell curve basically is a book about how the intelligentsia of America is self-selecting for more intelligent children, whereas the stupid people in America are self-selecting their breeding partners for more stupid people. And I see that happening when it comes to the internet. I don't think that governments actually care all that much if there is an element of the internet that is beyond their control, because that element will have self-selected itself into a state of isolation where it has voluntarily divested itself of its ability to influence the mainstream. Because the mainstream people will be more than happy being brainwashed little sheep who have no direction and no control over their own lives. And they won't care what the people on the more decentralized and informed part of the web are actually doing. And once you voluntarily surrender your ability to impact the larger cultural zeitgeist, then you don't have much hope. You're not really a threat to the government any longer. Anyway, let's get to actually reading this. The internet is about to change. In many countries, there's currently a coordinated legislative push to effectively outlaw encryption of user-uploaded content under the guise of protecting children. This means websites or internet services could be held criminally or civilly liable if someone used it to upload abusive material. If these bills become law, people like myself, who help supply private communication services, could be penalized or put into prison for simply protecting the privacy of our users. In fact, anyone who runs a website with user-uploaded content could be punished the same way. In today's article, I'll show you why these bills not only fail at protecting children, but also put the internet as we know it in jeopardy, as well as why you should question the organizations behind the push. Let's quickly recap some of the legislation. In the European Union, aka the European hellscape, chat control would require internet services, email, chat, storage, etc., to scan all messages and content and report flagged content to the EU. This would require that every internet-based service scans everything uploaded to it, even if it's end-to-end encrypted. Content would be analyzed using machine learning, i.e. AI, and matches would automatically be reported to the police. This is awaiting a vote from the EU LIBE committee. And of course it says here, yep, the overwhelming number of European citizens are voting against this. And this is also something that I think is important to explain a little bit, because this is ISP level analysis. So, sorry, I can hear my pheasant screaming outside. That if these bills were implemented, ISPs would be required to analyze the traffic running on their systems. And because it's an ISP level analysis, encryption and all this kind of stuff ceases to have any meaningful use, because encryption of content will take, unless you do it on unless you are literally sending files that are already encrypted on keys or via drive links or so on to people, and then passing them and then giving them the passwords in another way, then the encryption occurs after the ISP has already scanned the data and sent it. Ah, yes, your birds also scream with the sun and the moon. My pheasant is very promiscuous at the moment, so he is crowing very often. Might be a fox. No, it's not a fox, trust me. Kirsha is still in America. I don't have to worry about her stealing my birds. So yes, all of these chat controls, if they did go into effect in the EU, encryption would basically become impossible. Trying to talk to my family about the EU always ends with, but more security, more Russia, more grants. Yeah, you're talking to brainwashed people, I'm afraid. United Kingdom. Oh, how I hate the United Kingdom. The Online Safety Act of 2023 would require user service providers to enforce age limits and checks, remove legal but harmful content for children, and require scanning photos for materials related to CSM and exploitation, as well as terrorism. It would require providers to be able to identify these types of materials in private communications and to take down that content. This means providers would need visibility into messaging, even those messages that are end-to-end encrypted. End-to-end encrypted messaging providers such as WhatsApp, Viber, Signal, and Element have indicated in an open letter that surveillance of this type simply isn't possible without breaking end-to-end encryption entirely, and that's exactly why I explained it to you earlier. It's ISP level. And have threatened to leave the UK if the bill was passed and enforced without the offending clause 122. This bill was recently passed by Parliament unchanged and will become enforceable in 2024, aka this year. The United States, the Earn It Act 2023 would allow US states to hold websites criminally liable for not scanning user-uploaded content for CSAM. This would effectively ban end-to-end encryption. This bill has 22 co-sponsors and is awaiting an order to report to the Senate. Didn't the Earn It Act get struck down? Let me just have a look at this, actually. Is the Earn It Act still a thing? It is a proposed legislation. So, number of co-sponsors. Advances out of committee. So this, I think, is still a thing. I don't think that it's been struck down. Do correct me if it has been struck down. Which is it? Yeah. Tyrants have been promising security in exchange for obedience for all of human history. They're quick to renege on their end of the bargain, but they'll never fail to collect on yours. Arclight governments are becoming more blatant in their moves to control the narrative. A crazy guy off some people. It's not the mental health system that's the problem, it's social media. Magdalena's Rex, I know there's some democratic fascists in the US who'd want to push this type of legislation, and our Republican eunuchs are just as pathetic as the Tories. They'll do it for Israel. Monarchical foreigner notices your psyop, oh whoa. Is she having a woman moment? Someone check on her, please. Oh, sorry, I'm just randomly reading stuff on the Discord now. Sorry. My foot's gone to sleep. Ow, my foot has gone to sleep. Ow, 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 that hurts. Ooh, that's painful. One moment, please. Yep. The Stop CSAM Act 2023 would allow victims who suffered abuse or exploitation as children to sue any website that hosted pictures of the exploitation or abuse recklessly, e.g. if your website was not automatically scanning uploads. Websites are already required by law to remove CSAM if made aware of it, but this would require providers to scan all files uploaded. This bill has 4 co-sponsors and is awaiting an order to report to the Senate. The Kids Online Safety Act would require platforms to verify the ages of its visitors and filter content promoting self-harm, suicide, eating disorders, and sexual exploitation. Again, where are the parents? This would inherently require an age verification systems for all users and transparency into content algorithms, including data sharing with third parties. I'm not going to actually read that because this material could have changed since this article was produced. It is important to note that the language in these bills and the definition for service providers extends to any website or online property that has user-uploaded content. This could be as simple as a blog that allows comments or a site that allows file uploads. It could be a message board or chat room, literally anything on the internet that is two-way communication. Most websites are operated by everyday people, not huge tech companies. Cough, Kiwi Farms, cough. They have neither the resources or ability to implement scanning on their websites, under threat of fine or imprisonment. They would risk operating in violation or be forced to shut down their website. This means your favorite independent media site, hobbyist forum, or random message board could disappear. These bills would crumble the internet as we know it and centralize it further for the benefit of big tech, who are rapidly expanding the surveillance agenda. We must pause and ask ourselves, is this effort to ramp up surveillance really about protecting children? Are they really thinking of the children? Do remember, though, when they drop pretense, it's because they know they're losing control. When they think they're in control, they stay subtle, so the sheep stay placid. Guildbench Troy, it's amazing how things have inverted. I originally got into the internet because of how much more free it seemed. Now I do much more meat-based stuff because of how much freer it is than the internet. The parents are not involved even if they want to be. They're often both wages trapped in the system designed to destroy the family. Because 2 people working is better than a single income earner and a housewife for the spreadsheets. Damn children's. Yes, and this is a major untalked about factor. The fact that the Western economy, and indeed the entire worldwide economy, has been designed from the ground up in recent decades to ensure that both parents of a family have to be earning in order to provide for their children. And so parents are no longer able to control their children's online activities. And so, of course, the children have unfettered access to the internet. So, of course, it becomes big government's duty to protect the children. Actually, ISP can't see encrypted traffic because it's done on the user's end. They could just ban HTTPS or compromise the signing certificates. Okay, if you know more about that than I do, touch off your tail, I understand. I love how this is literal textbook fascism, a cartelization of corporations loyal to a totalitarian government you can't resist outside of and must actively support for democracy. Gentile love democracy. Giovanni Gentile, founder of the fascist doctrine. I don't know how they plan to enforce this on open source products, probably through excessive litigation. How do companies currently deal with CSAM? In the US, tracking CSAM is recognized as a joint effort between ESPs, electronic service providers like Google, and the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, a private non-profit established by Congress in 1984 and primarily funded by the US Department of Justice. Unlimited Hangout has previously reported on the NCMEC and its ties to figures such as Hillary Clinton and intelligence-funded NGOs such as Thorn. They also receive corporate contributions from big names such as Adobe, Disney, Google, Meta, Microsoft Palantir, Ring Doorbell, Verizon, and Zoom. I hate Zoom passionately. ESPs in the US are already required to report to the cyber tip line if they become aware of CSAM. Otherwise, they may face fines or prison time. These cyber tip line reports combine offending content with additional information such as identifying the potential perpetrator, the victim, and other context that is combined and sent off to law enforcement. Photo and content scanning measures are not required. However, several prominent companies have voluntarily implemented scanning of communications and media, such as Gmail, YouTube, Google Photos, Facebook, Instant Messenger, Skype, Snapchat, iCloud, email, Microsoft, Xbox. If you use these services, then your messages and media may automatically be scanned for abusive material. Ironically, and not surprisingly, it's these very platforms that have the most malicious activity, including drugs and gun sales, CSM, and cyberbullying harassment. And I think it's worth pointing out here that it is, if you use Google Drive automatically scans every file that you upload to it. I use Google Drive an awful lot because I mostly just use it for archiving and storage and stuff. However, in the past, Google Drive have banned and removed the accounts of people that have been caught uploading very innocuous material that the AI has misdiagnosed as child sexual abuse material. There was a pretty major case recently where during COVID, during lockdown, a mother and a family had a baby who was sick with something, and the doctor was only able to see them over Zoom. And he instructed the father to take photographs of the baby for him to help diagnose. And so the father took photographs of the baby and uploaded them to Google Drive. And Google Drive branded him as a pedophile and locked him out of his Google account because in the photographs, it was his wife with a bare chest holding, not with her breasts exposed or anything, but just visibly not wearing a bra, who was holding the child that she was photographing. Google deemed that child pornography and destroyed this man's entire online presence and branded him a pedophile because he uploaded that material to a doctor who was using it to diagnose his ill child. Just remember, 2 people paying each other a 20k IOU to eat a cow patty increases GDP by 40k. Yes, Alex can tell you a lot more about that. A single-income household used to be able to afford a house, a car, and a holiday once a year. Yep. Touched off your tail. Basically, it's actually even more draconian and invasive than just spying, yes. And another thing you need to be aware of about Google Drive is that Google Drive will try and actively de-encrypt the material that is encrypted you upload it. Let's say you put files in a zip drive and you encrypt the zip drive, or the zip folder rather. And then you upload it to Google Drive. Google Drive will immediately try and crack the password of that encrypted folder so that it can scan the contents. If you have uploaded the password in any other documents that are unencrypted on that Google Drive link, on that Google Drive, then Google Drive will look through those documents and then apply words as passwords to try and guess the password of that encrypted folder. So if you put an encrypted folder on Google Drive and send it to someone, and you say in the email, the password to this encrypted folder is test123, then Google, when it detects that, will just go, oh, I will now use test123 to access this folder, and I'm going to scan the contents. So that is how far and how advanced Google's spyware technology has become. And you need to be very much aware of that if you are ever transferring encrypted files across Google Drive or email or any similar service, because all of them by now will probably do this. They will try and crack the encryption, and you need to arrange a different form of identification or a different form of password sharing in order to safely transfer these things. Google also scans and caches firearms serial numbers from pictures their spiders are able to detect. Yep, that's also something they do. I'm glad that you know that as well, Gigadramon. But let me have another drink and then let me continue reading this article. Ah, that tastes delicious. Does voluntary content scanning actually help protect children? Google began publishing a CSAM transparency report in 2021, which gives numbers on how much CSAM was identified and reported on across Google and YouTube. It includes data since 2020, which counts how many reports were made to NCMEC, how many different Google accounts were disabled, and how many hashes were contributed to the NCMEC hash database. It is unclear when Google started creating hashes of its user photos, but they have contributed 2.5 million new hashes to National Center for Missing and Exploited Children's hash database by date. Reports are published every 6 months, and we've seen staggering growth in all types of reports since 2020. For example, Google's cyber tipline reports have grown from 500,000 in 2020 to 800,000 in 2022 to more than 2.1 million in 2021 rather. The first half of 2023 has shown a decline, totaling 750,000 reports from January to June. As seen on NCMEC's cyber tipline data page, Google Reports represents a mere fraction of the total number of reports submitted to the NCMEC, which works with over 101,500 ESPs, mostly US companies. 5 electronic service providers accounted for more than 90% of the 32 million reports in 2022. Around half of these reports in 2022 were actionable, meaning there is sufficient information for law enforcement to proceed with an investigation. Additionally, 89.9% of reports involved content uploaded by users outside of the US. The NCMEC also reports the numbers of cyber tipline reports made to different law enforcement organizations such as Internet Crimes Against Children, Local LE, Federal LE, and International LE. Law enforcement is not required to give any feedback on what happens with these reports, and as a result, they hardly provide feedback. Using NECMEC's own numbers, we can see there is very little visibility on how the reports are used. And if you ask people like Null and so on what actually happens when you report CSAM, he will tell you nothing happens when you report CSAM. In fact, this is one of the reasons why I hate VT and other similar image boards, because CP on image boards is utterly, utterly rampant. In fact, CP on places like VT is so rampant. People who have been looking for information on VTubers on VT have randomly, without any intention, stumbled upon lists of shared CP on places like VT. It is not hard to find. It is very transparent and very obvious. And it has direct links to places like Discord and so on, where they are actively sharing child sexual abusive material. And basically, you can report those things. Nothing will happen. Absolutely nothing will happen. Giga16, I've had other gun people tell me Google says they don't do that anymore, but I stopped trusting anything Google says uncritically the instant they removed "don't be evil" from their mission statement. Send malware to your college to your colleague for analysis. Google detects malware and destroy the sample. Profit. Yep. The government has priorities, don't you know? Arclight, don't click catbox links on VT. Do not click links of any sort on VT, okay? Don't click links on VT. I cannot stress this enough. Do not click links on VT. You will see some stuff you didn't want to see, and you may also accidentally become a criminal by doing so. So anyway, let's continue. I'm not going to read that because it's just numbers. Given the huge volume of reports not acted on, forcing technology providers to automatically scan and generate reports is not going to magically change things. It will require law enforcement to act on reports to put child predators behind bars and save children. This is, after all, what legislators say they want. That's not to say that nothing is being done. A 2022 report of cyber tipline success stories in the United States stated they closed 714 different cases using cyber tipline reports. Only 16 of these cases explicitly required the assistance of a service provider. Again, out of 1.35 million actionable cyber tipline reports in the US in 2022, there have been 714 arrests so far. It's possible there are ongoing investigations that will bring this number higher, but we can only guess without transparency. I was unable to find success stories for any prior years. And this instantaneously raises the question, why isn't there legislation to hold the police force accountable for not investigating these reports? That seems like the most logical and obvious thing to do. Just have legislation that says, if you can prove the police did not act on a confirmed report of child sexual abuse material, that police force is now liable. Get them off their asses. Get them to report these. Get them to investigate these reports. Stop letting them get away with it. BRB off on VT to click all the links. I mean, if you want to get a knock on your door from the police, go right ahead. The Kobo thread glows like the sun. Any cute and funny VTuber's name glows like the sun. The U.S. Marshal Service under Trump started to go after CP, and the media hated them for it. Gilbench Troy, do you have a link to that or something that I could look at? If I remember, Biohazard X, IRIC, most agencies like the FBI, when receiving reports about CP, just monitor consumers of it while only bothering to arrest producers and pedos into hurtcore, which is things like sadistic interests. There is no form of CP that is not sadistic. Ooh woo, oh whoa, funny VT lingo. Hello, Denna. Nice to see you're still here and being exposed to horrors beyond your comprehension. Why on earth, Denna, you don't seem the type to actually be interested in this kind of thing at all. Why do you even watch this kind of stuff? I'm curious. That like me talking about this kind of stuff. This is the kind of thing that I think would appeal to like older people on the internet who want to be educated about this kind of stuff, or basically just want to be reminded about how terrible things are. If legislators around the world want to make a genuine impact on child sexual abuse, then they should push for transparency and accountability practices. Yeah, that's exactly what I just said. And work to ensure that law enforcement properly investigates the millions upon millions of reports they already receive every year, and make the data available to the public. We the people need to know that the groups responsible for investigating child abuse are doing their jobs with the processes and data already available, rather than further sacrifice our individual privacy and security for more of the same. The bills and laws in question also lack an understanding of encryption, are not technically feasible to implement, put unnecessary legal liability on technology companies, and lack evidence the policies will improve outcomes for children. Give me just 1 second. Oh, there we go. How can the online child abuse laws across Western countries be so consistent with their practices? How did they all reach the same strategies of age verification, content filtering, and client-side scanning? The framework for this legislation has been in the works for years. One key architect of this push has been the We Protect Global Alliance. When they say global alliance, yes, they say that, you know, it's global in terms of, yeah, it's global in the number of billionaires they want to F you over. A merger of initiatives between the European Commission, the US Department of Justice, and the UK government. When these governments all cooperate on something, it's always bad. Their first summit was hosted in 2014 and is now composed of 97 governments, 25 technology companies, and 30 civil society organizations. UNICEF, a member of We Protect, released a model national response which outlines many of the elements we see in these different child safety bills today. UNICEF and organizations like the US Department of Justice state that sexual exploitation of children cannot be addressed by one country, company, or organization working in isolation. Troublingly, both of these groups have a history of turning a blind eye to child abuse in their respective organizations or jurisdictions. Oh, I love it when he brings out the receipts. I love it. We can see the titles just there. No action against prosecutors who oversaw. Yep, that's all going to be pretty juicy. Working groups like the 5-country government counterparts Five Eyes, USA, UK, Australia, Canada, and New Zealand have met with the corporate executives of Facebook, Google, Microsoft, Roblox, I hate Roblox so much, Snap, and Twitter to collaborate on guidelines such as voluntary principles to counter online child sexual exploitation and abuse. These groups are all working together via private-public partnerships like the Global Cyber Alliance, among other things, to change the face of the internet. Earlier this year, the DOJ outlined the risky aspects of technology in a 2023 National Strategy Report on Child Exploitation, which you can see just here. Pretty straightforward. Anonymization of offenders, encryption of data storage and communications, basically all the things that people would want to use if they were trying to do things without government attention. The thing is, Proctor, a lot of the time the one uploading are feds themselves. They benefit a lot from keeping the stuff on the net. They need a job after all, and it's very good to blackmail people. I know, trust me. It's a little interesting, plus I get bored using music, and I may not understand everything, but it's always the out-of-pocket info I usually don't search for that I'll probably watch regardless. Okay, that's nice to hear. I do enjoy it when people like you bother to listen to this kind of thing. It might be a case of very few people who say they care actually care. Of course, it's very easy to say you care, but also very, very difficult to actually care. Where's my tab? There it is. Ignoring the CA right in front of their noses. As noted earlier, many of these groups have a track record of responding very poorly to serious CA issues when these crimes involve their own organization or persons with political value. For instance, there have been nearly 2,000 allegations of CSA and exploitation against UN peacekeepers worldwide between 2004 and 2016. This includes the child sex ring in Haiti, from 2004 to 2007, where Sri Lankan UN peacekeepers traded food in exchange for sex with children as young as 9 years old. The names of the offenders are kept confidential by the UN, and the UN puts the responsibility on member states to investigate and prosecute. UN records on these allegations are also incomplete, and hundreds of cases have been closed without explanation. The UN even continues to send Sri Lankan peacekeepers to Haiti despite the scandals. In the US, we can see a similar level of accountability with the Department of Justice still withholding the client list for Jeffrey Epstein's child prostitution ring, among many, many other examples. I believe this list was eventually released. The very organizations that try to convince us to give up our individual liberties for the sake of the children will completely ignore crimes against children when it suits them. Can we really trust these organizations to protect children? The real-time monitoring of messages and outlawing of privacy will not protect children. On the contrary, it would put their communications into the hands of more third parties. The wiser choice would be to engage parental awareness and conscious use of technology, e.g., not giving children unlimited access to mobile phones or devices and avoiding use of popular social media platforms and messengers. If these actors truly cared about protecting children, then they would call an end to the genocide and war crimes occurring in Gaza. Instead, the US is rushing to provide aid to Israel in the form of munitions. In the UK, only 80 out of 650 MPs have called for a ceasefire. Instead, there is more interest in clamping down on and controlling the internet, a crucial resource for all people in a time of great need. I hate the Antichrist, I hate the Antichrist, I hate the Antichrist. Ah, yes, the blue helmets. I can link, the feds constantly make honeypots and engage in entrapment. I actually found a paper that cited a load of terrorism cases in the aughts, and almost all of them had clear signs of entrapment. I can actually link that paper if you'd like. I have it bookmarked. I would appreciate that link. Yes, please do. The list was not released. It was just extracts from the court case. Ah, thank you for that, Arclight. No. Intra-governmental organizations are pushing towards an internet where identities are verified and our messages are tracked. With such legislation coming our way all over the world, how can we retain any privacy? The answer is simple. Do not comply. Do not follow along with big tech companies that voluntarily follow legislature guidelines. Find ways to decentralize your use of software. Invest your time into divesting from big tech and learning alternative solutions for communication, storage, and encryption. Given the stakes, there has never been a more important time to divest from these companies and their software. I quite agree. At this point, you might be asking, how do we continue to find information on the internet without Google search engine, or use our computers without Windows and Apple Mac OS? Or use our phones without Google's Android, or our browser without Google's Chrome, MS Edge, or Apple Safari. And I'm going to go through these examples because I use a few of these already. Use a free open operating system for your computer. Traditional operating systems like Windows and Mac OS are proprietary software, which is distinct from free software. It's important to understand the difference between the two, as the topic will come up again, so let's define proprietary and free software. Proprietary or non-free software is not available for users to study, observe, or change. As the user, you are given no rights. For example, only the developers of Microsoft Windows can get a clear look at the code of the operating system and understand what it does. Users have no way to view the code or verify what the program does. In contrast, open and free and open source software gives users rights. The Free Software Foundation, one of the leading organizations behind the free software movement, provides an extended definition. Free software means software that respects users' freedom and community. Roughly, it means that the users have the freedom to run, copy, distribute, study, change, and improve the software. Thus, free software is a matter of liberty, not price. To understand the concept, you should think of free as in free speech, not as in free beer. We sometimes call it libre software, borrowing the French or Spanish word for free, as is freedom, as in freedom, to show we do not mean the software is gratis. You may have paid money to get copies of a free program, or you may have obtained copies at no charge. But regardless of how you got them, you always have the freedom to copy and change the software, even to sell copies. Alternative operating systems based on GNU Linux/Linux are free software. They offer many intended benefits, and I'm not going to shill for Linux because I don't use Linux. Wait, a link in chat, or should I PM it to me in Discord, please? The 2020 plot to kidnap or assassinate the Michigan governor consisted of 12 feds of various agencies, one dumb person, and an actually mentally disabled person. I think I've heard a little bit about that. It's kind of insane. Where am I getting beeped? Thank you very much, Mexifish, for that comment on Discord, by the way. One moment, let me have a drink. Oh, dear. My commentary on Linux basically is you need to learn how to use Linux, and Linux appeals to a special kind of person, and it is, I think you need to have a personality to like Linux. I don't like Linux. What I have as my OS is Windows 10 with a debloater running on it. A debloater is basically a third-party piece of software that digs through your operating system that Microsoft supplies and cuts out a huge amount of the tracking nonsense that is attached to it. It cuts out stuff like the Microsoft Store, it cuts out Cortana, it removes location, geo-tracking, all that kind of stuff. And as far as I'm concerned, it's pretty much essential if you want to use Windows in day and age. The only time I will go to Linux is if Windows 10 is rendered unusable and Windows 11 is made mandatory. I refuse to use Windows 11. I will never use Windows 11. I will go Linux, or I will stop using Windows at all. There is no alternative for me. Oh, use open source software on your phone. That's basically Linux for the phone. Down here was the thing that I really wanted to look into, because this is the most relevant thing to all content creators on the internet. Own your data. If a major cyber event caused the internet to go down, how would you recover the photos/files/information you stored on cloud devices? How would you get the information you needed to prepare for a survival situation? It would be best to have this information on hand when you need it, not desperately hoping to recover it in the event of a cyber disaster. At minimum, you should back up all of the following on your local computer instead of the cloud service you currently use: passwords, legal documents, books, photos, reference material, and maps. Here are some suggestions to be cyber pandemic ready. Knowledge is power. Download all the books you need in PDF format. And I'm just going to say right here, I'm actually going to put it on stream. Because people don't know this, and it really irritates me. There. If you ever want to find a PDF of virtually anything, use Yandex. Just Google Yandex, and you'll be able to get on a Yandex link. But, oh, sorry, I just whacked my microphone trying to reach for something. Let me just blow my nose. 1 second. Image store, imagine storing your shit on cloud services. I do use Google Drive an awful lot, but I also only use Google Drive to like hotlink things to people. I have all the material I have on Google Drive on my hard drive as well. But Yandex is a Russian search engine that is maintained by the state of Russia. In Russia, there is no such thing as copyright. In Russia, piracy is a way of life. The Russians are at the foremost cutting edge of piracy. Pretty much all cracks for Western software come from Russia. And they have a much deeper understanding of piracy than the West. So if you want a PDF of basically any book out there, go to Yandex, type in the title of the book and the author, and just add PDF to the search. You will find a free PDF download within a single page of results. I have found a PDF of every single book I have ever looked for on Yandex within a single search page. It is basically foolproof. And also, Yandex indexes torrent searches. So if you want to torrent something, use Yandex. Google and Brave and so on, and forks of the Chromium browser, they all actively suppress torrent links. But Yandex promotes torrent links, usually to the front page. So use Yandex if you're ever looking for a torrent of basically anything. That's how you should look for it. Need to navigate offline? Organic Maps lets you download maps of most of the regions on the planet, and you can route to different locations using GPS only, which means you don't need a SIM card in your phone. If you use Google Drive or iCloud, now is the time to export all of your photos, videos, and documents to a local hard drive. Are you managing your passwords on the cloud? Know that the cloud password managers are not immune to hacking attempts. Do not use a cloud password manager. Ever. The best place for your passwords is in an encrypted password vault on your computer. An attacker would need not only the password vault file on your computer, but also the master password used to encrypt the vault. A collection of software called KeePass offers a cohesive way to manage the sync passwords locally on your computer and on your phone. I use KeePass personally. KeePass is a wonderful, surprisingly easy to use little bit of software. I really appreciate it. You can download KeePass very easily. You can set up KeePass very easily. And you can also synchronize KeePass across multiple different devices. So I consider KeePass to be completely invaluable. Also, thank you very much, Gigadramon6, for that link. I'm not going to study it this stream because we're slowly reaching towards the end. We're at 2 hours, 35 minutes. And again, support alternatives. A wide range of software can serve as alternatives in the open source software ecosystem. I've categorized and listed several great ones below, all of which are programs for Linux computers. That's KeePass XC, Bitwarden, I haven't used either of these. Veracrypt I have used. Veracrypt is again quite easy to use and set up. I like Veracrypt. When Ireland was threatening to pass very draconian free speech laws, I had a whole bunch of political content very glowy stuff about COVID and so on my PC. The moment Ireland threatened to have that free speech law, what I did was I got Veracrypt, I installed Veracrypt, I made a Veracrypt pseudo drive on my computer, and I stuck all of my political content right on that Veracrypt, and I hid it behind a very strong password. And I strongly think if you have glowy material on your computer, you should always use something like Veracrypt to make sure that a random asshole can't just log in or get government access to it, because you know for a fact that if you're using something like Windows, Microsoft will 100% give up your password or give the government a backdoor into your system if they ask. It's up to you to use something like Veracrypt to encrypt stuff past that. There is also, I've never used these emails. I do use Proton Mail an awful lot. Proton Mail, in my opinion, is a very good service as well, and also browsers. I use Brave browser. Ungoogled Chromium is also good. Ungoogled Chromium basically has all the advantages of Google Search, Google Search unquestionably has the best search engine. And if you ignore the sponsored links and the nonsense like that, it most reliably gets you the results that you probably want. Ungoogled Chromium will give you the same results as Google's Chrome, but without the tracking. It's pretty self-explanatory. I would also recommend Brave browser, which is very good. LibreWolf is not too bad either. Communication, these are a bit too techy for me. And social media, LibReddit, I've used a little bit of Invidious and LibReddit. Graphics, I think that Denna uses Krita already. Krita is free and open source. GIMP is as well. I use both Krita, Inkscape, and I also use a little bit of GIMP, as well as Blender. All of these, except for Pinter and Gravit, I've used before. They are all very good. DaVinci Resolve I also use as well. It is also available to those who know where to look. Cough, cough, wink, wink. I've not used video utilities, OBS software. Of course, I'm literally streaming with you on OBS software right now. VirtualBox I've also used, which is very good. As for the rest of them, I really need to use LibreOffice. I should invest in that. Browser-based encrypted document editor. I've not used CryptPad. This is a little bit too techie overall. Funny Creator. Short version. Oh yeah, it's a big file that. Let me go back a little bit. Touch Fluffy Tail. Always use an encrypted offline password manager like KeePass or a self-hosted solution if you really need internet connection. 100%. Higadramon, it's a big file that I stumbled across looking over stuff related to gun issues. I don't blame you for not reading it right now. Short version, there's a lot of evidence they started using the exact same types of strategies they used to use against terrorists to start creating school shooters. I can agree with that. I will just paste this in the chat as well so that people can look this up themselves if they do. We are now at 2 hours and 40 minutes. I am not going to go on for much longer. In fact, I think I will end stream around here because I've chatted about most of the stuff that I wanted to, and tomorrow I'm going to be streaming again because I want to play Manor Lords. I have been really looking forward to Manor Lords for a long time, and I think that Manor Lords will be a great game to buy and then stream on day one, because apparently from all the previews, it's been very well polished, it's very good, there's no obvious bugs, it's maybe a single person too, and it's a game that I've wanted to play because I'm sick and tired of Total War. Like, Total War is dead to me as a franchise after all the nonsense the Creative Assembly has done. It's very obvious that we are not going to get another cool like army battle city building simulator for a very long time from someone like Creative Assembly. So I'm pretty damn hyped for Manor Lords. So I hope that the material that I've covered tonight has been of use in some way to people. I'm very happy that people are mostly informed about this stuff. I don't like to preach to the choir too much. I really hope that even one or two people watch these kind of videos and learn something from it, I consider my job done. I hope to be streaming again more frequently as well. I might stream again over the weekend if I really enjoy Manor Lords. And I will also be streaming again on Monday, of course, because now that Fox is out of the way, I will be able to stream a lot more frequently, which I enjoy. Anyway, guys, I really do appreciate all of your attention and your time. I'm not going to keep you any longer, and I'm going to say goodnight for now. I am massively appreciative of all the effort you put into listening to me ramble on the internet. And also, if anybody else has stuff that they would like me to cover in any capacity, I would like to highlight again the stream material channel on my Discord. If you want to put in articles or anything like that you would like me to read on stream, then please put the links or the materials or the videos even, if you want me to do React content or anything, put them in there, please. Put them in there. Anyway, I know I'm going to get some coffee, I'm also going to have a bath, and I'm going to have something else to eat. So please take care of yourselves, my dear friends, and I will see you tomorrow, actually. Same time tomorrow. Maybe a tiny bit earlier. Depends how early Manor Lords releases. So good night, people. Thank you very much for your time. Good stream, Proctor. See you later. Thank you very much, Touch Fluffy Tail and Eureka, and also Damned Lurker. See you later. Take care.